Hey everybody, you're tuning in to the Canary Cry News Talk live stream pre-stream. Congratulations, we're going to get this show going in just about a minute here. But, you know, you can help out by just going ahead and liking the video now. Remember, you can always take it back later. But on top of that, go ahead and share out the link. Let's see how many new folks we can get in on the live stream here. Now, remember, you're going to want to follow us on multiple platforms. That includes Canary Cry Radio YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/canarycryradio, twitch.tv/canarycryradio, and most importantly, subscribe to the RSS feed, and that'll be over on whatever podcast player you want to use. And big old congratulations to Vitamin Kina over on Twitch for first comment of the day award. Thank you very much for that. And remember, folks, you're just going to want to stay hydrated. It's very important, especially on these long shows. Stay hydrated. Okay, well, here we go, folks. Buckle your seatbelts. Let's go.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is April 5th, 2021. This is episode 320. And today, Q-ANON exposed. That's right. And I did not kick off the robot wars, but I am your best buddy, Basil.
And I am not QAnon, but I am a victim of Asian love and hate. My name is Gonz. Welcome to the podcast where we praise Jesus while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. And we're here. We're back. Episode 320.
Yeah, we're back. I'm back in the studio. Internet connection nominally better. I know last episode was a disappointment for everyone. But things should be back to normal. We hope. We can only pray, Gonz.
Yep. Pray for the little technology stuff to work, the little bugs in the interwebs and machines to fall in line.
I think it was a little bit more than a bug last time. Well, it might have been like what was that movie?
Gremlins?
Oh, no, the bug one.
Oh, the bug one, yeah.
The one with the spacemen and they're fighting the bugs. I keep wanting to say Super Troopers.
No, Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers,
yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, those kinds of bugs, the big ones. But I think we're going to be okay today. Anything fun happen this weekend?
Nope, just spent some time with family. Got way too much information about hospital visits from the father-in-law, and that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds exciting. Well, it was Easter, so happy post-Easter.
Yeah, happy Ishtar Day, everybody. Post-Ishtar Day.
Yeah. Ostera, Ishtar, so many options for that holiday. But for those who use it to celebrate the resurrection of Christ, he did it. He did it again.
He did it again?
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about?
He resurrected.
I know. He did it once.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you saying that
it's way too early to be getting into these nitpicky theological debates?
I know. I'm a theological nitpicker. I saw Steven Crowder tweet about that, and he was like, "Never again." And I'm like, "Hey, wait a minute. What do you mean never again? The whole eschatology of Christianity is based on the resurrection of the dead." But of course, I was just being nitpicky.
That was really fun for everybody involved.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, should we get right into it? You want to hear about Flippy?
Like, subscribe, bell button, all. Like, subscribe, bell button.
Oh yeah, do that.
Yeah, that first. Make sure to like, subscribe, bell button, and hit the all. And yeah, I'm ready for Flippy.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Okay, for those who are new to the show, FLIPPY is the colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking over our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use talking about FLIPPY as an opportunity to explore all the new, fun, and exciting ways that robots are taking over the world, and there's nothing we can do about it. But today, Gons, it seems like some people are getting a jump start on the robot wars. This is coming from wonderfulengineering.com. Wonderful Engineering. I think, some engineering enthusiasts maybe ran out of adjectives. Wonderful. The headline is people, that's human people, have started throwing eggs at Google's autonomous vans. Dun, dun, dun. Arm yourselves, folks. Robots are taking over the world, and it worries many people, the humans, of a possible new robotic world order. It is quite a while now that the world has been introduced to independently run robotic technologies entirely autonomous, controlling many human-run operations. Robot hate has been rising simultaneously, with some fearing accidents on the roads with more use of autonomously run vehicles, and others fearing losing their jobs. Okay, Gons, we're identifying the next social justice movement as we speak here.
Yep.
A recent example of hate on growing autonomous power is an attack on Google-backed self-driving vans by Waymo. Autonomous vans were going through their initial road testing in Phoenix, Arizona, when haters started throwing eggs on them. Haters! It was a hate crime, Gonzo. Expressing how much they want this to stop. The technology is evolving, and so are our behaviors, making us more conveniently reliable on autonomous technology. The commute world has also covered a long distance, starting from combustion cars to adding features like cruise control, which later advanced to adaptive cruise control. Ooh, the electric autonomously run vehicles that do pretty well without human supervision are a thing for quite some time now. While providing convenience, these technologies are mainly taking away the human role. That is exactly what bothers people in Phoenix, Arizona. Waymo has been testing its autonomous run vehicles on Phoenix's roads, given that it's an easy pick. With loose policies, manufacturers of autonomous vehicles find it a sanctuary to test their newly built models. Sanctuary city. Yeah. Preferably these autonomous testing are kept secret and away from where they could catch attention. Why? Because such testings have led to accidents given the machine error. There are numerous such examples where a driverless car was the reason for a fatal accident, hence leaving most of the states to force strict policies over such testings on the road. The hate sentiment against autonomous technology isn't a new thing. It is just more fueled with advancements in the field. I feel like whatever AI that was writing this article it needed a nap by the time it got to the end. The hate sentiment against autonomous technology isn't a new thing. It is just more fueled with advancements in the field. Although the haters even know their hate is so little to stop the technology. Oh, gosh, it's breaking down. Although the haters even know their hate is so little to stop the technology from growing, leading to a more convenient world for some while increasing hardships for others.
That sentence at the end makes no sense.
It's not even a sentence at the end. Complete breakdown. But you get the point, folks. We've actually, Phoenix has been a hotbed for this robotic autonomous
Rising
hate.
Phoenix.
Yes, for a few years. There was another attack on some other robots in Phoenix a couple of years ago. This is where the war kicks off. But there you go. I think we called it a couple years ago on some other Flippy updates, but now the language is just so blatant, and we've had a few years to be sort of programmed by the social justice communication mechanisms that, you throw in robotic world order. So you got to allude to the crazy, conspiracy theory Q crowd, which of course connects to racists and Trump, and then make sure to throw in the term robot hate. And there you go. We are ready, and we are set and ready to kick off the social justice movement for robots. Which is not necessarily come as a surprise to our listeners, but we like to track it step by step as it goes.
Yeah, Basil, first off, you're doing the transparent thing again. I need you to come back to 3D reality and, come back to the solid state. Your transparent state is freaking people out, number one. Number two, this is an example of anti-robot extremism.
Oh, yeah. There he is. Coming in early with the jokes.
Coming in hot. Okay. It's I don't know. I think we're going to see more of this as we see robots just out and about. People are going to throw eggs at it or throw whatever. There's going to be some resistance, and until people accept it, this is going to be a normal thing. Just anywhere in society.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, unless you have these hubs where that's kind of the known thing, like, we have this robot bar where this robot serves drinks. Well, people aren't going to go in there and maybe people go in there and just to hate on the robot and throw eggs at it.
No doubt.
It's doing it again. You can't stay in 3D today.
Well, I might just have to stay transparent. It's the ghost protocol.
Yeah.
But I'll add another layer of this to you, and this is subtle, and this is why you listen to Canary Cry News Talk. Now, as is common with much of many social justice movements, it's kind of a retargeting away from larger organizations or systems towards the identity of individuals involved. So, where governments and companies can kind of get the heat off of them and their corrupt systems by blaming it on things like racism or misogyny or whatever, which shifts the blame from systems and organizations to individuals that they can label as racists or misogynists or roboticists or whatever. We have the same thing happening here, because in the second paragraph here, a recent example of hate on growing autonomous power is an attack on Google-backed self-driving vans by Waymo. I think a big part of the possibility of the motivation of these people, now I'm speaking like whatever AI wrote this thing, it feels like Google is being attacked by Google haters, but for PR reasons and to shift the blame off of a big evil corporation that's taking advantage of each and every one of us on a daily basis, saying no, it's not about Google, it's about robot hate. It's about these people just hate robots. They couldn't possibly hate Google. Let's shift it on to some robot identity politics.
Yeah. You're doing it again. I think Google. I think there was a case. I just saw a story that we're not going to report necessarily, but basically, Google won a case about fair use or with fair use because Oracle or somebody sued them for using some of their technology or something like that, and Google got off by just with the fair use thing, but.
Wait, what?
Just saying how Google, kind of like China, uses people's technology to just do what they will, whatever they want to. I think they were using something that Oracle, the company Oracle has, and Oracle sued Google, and the judges or whatever took side with Google because fair use, number one, but also maybe they're scared of Google, of what they can do to retaliate.
Interesting. Yeah, it's always possible.
But I think I figured out
And
another
plus,
aspect.
Google has the judge's entire search history.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's part of the issue. Is anytime Google gets into some heat in the courtroom, they can do some kind of
talk about
threat.
a blackmail operation.
Yeah. The other thing I might have figured out, maybe there are people that are going to TP a lot of these robots in the future, and that's why we're seeing a lot of the toilet paper shortage kind of narratives, because they just don't want people wasting toilet paper on these robots, so they just make it taboo to toss around toilet paper.
The people.
Yeah, I might have to do I'm going to do your stand-in just so there's something there for people to look at other than your transparent.
I'm looking at it. I look like a cool ghost. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you'll be
I think as far as technical disasters go, it's
minute.
Pretty minor.
Yeah. Okay, well, anything else? Are you going to throw eggs at Waymo vehicles?
No. I feel like this might be a false flag also, but that's for another podcast.
False flag. Or if you do decide to participate, they will track you down. They will.
No way, Jose.
They will. No,
Violence
they will.
is not the answer.
They will find out who you are and track you down and make a documentary on you, just like they did for Mr. Q-ANON.
Q the miserable, Q the desperate. What must I do to convince you people? You're right, Q.
This is dailymail.co.uk, and we know about the Q documentary on HBO. Well, apparently it concluded with some, I guess, revealings or a big bombshell, supposedly. Headline, Q Unmasked, ? Right-wing conspiracy group QAnon's mysterious leader, Q, is named as Ron Watkins, the son of 8chan owner, in new docuseries. Now, Ron Watkins was at Code Monkeys on Twitter, and I think he was banned in January. But let's see what this says here. A new HBO docuseries has named head of QAnon as Ronald Watkins, the son of the owner of the unregulated online messaging board 8chan, where the theory took its roots and has exploded in recent years. Q, Into the Storm is a 6-part series that's airing on HBO Max on March 21st, which was a couple weeks ago. Its filmmakers name Watkins, the son of 8chan founder Jim Watkins, as Q, the head of the right-wing pro-Trump conspiracy theory group QAnon. Ron Watkins is interviewed as part of the series as his father and other members of the group. It's unclear if he asked directly whether or not he was Q, or what led the filmmaker Cullen Hallback to the conclusion that he is. Hallback says he spent 3 years studying the right-wing group. In a clip from his interview with Ron in the trailer, Ron is shown asking, "So you're making a list of who might be Q. Let's continue then." Ron is the administrator of 8chan, known as 8kun, an online message board where QAnon sprouted roots in 2017 and gained followers. QAnon began as a marginalized theory that was somewhat contained to the dark corners of the internet, but it exploded under Donald Trump's presidency. It was particularly bolstered by the unproven theory that widespread voter fraud won the election for Biden amid widespread conspiracy theories about the COVID-19 pandemic. It's got a picture of Ron there, and it says there's some pictures from obviously the Capitol riots, the insurrection.
Of course.
The horned guy, the QAnon shaman. The premise of QAnon is that there is a deep state organization of Satan-worshipping pedophiles who Trump was fighting against throughout his presidency. Many of the January 6th Capitol rioters were QAnon theorists. 8chan was originally created by Frederick Brennan, but he quit after the Watkins refused to remove the racist manifesto of Christchurch, New Zealand shooter in 2018. The site is hosted on servers in Manila in the Philippines and is safe from the censorship that Trump fans complain about on Western social media. Brennan has been trying for years to get the site taken offline, claiming it is now out of control and dangerous. He previously named either Ron or Jim as Q, saying in a June 2020 interview, quote, "I definitely 100% believe that Q that Q either knows Jim or Ron Watkins or was hired by Jim or Ron Watkins. Only Jim and Ron have verified Q's posts on 8chan, which has fueled speculation that one of them is the leader. The posts have also appeared on 4chan, the less extreme version of the site. Many of the rioters... 4chan's less extreme. That's pretty crazy. Yeah. Many of the rioters... What was that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's a crazy thing to say, but okay.
They're equally extreme, if you want to use that word, extreme.
Yeah.
Or extreme. Many of the rioters from the January 8th attack on the U.S. Capitol were QAnon followers.
January 8th?
Yeah. What's up with that?
What happened on January 8th?
I don't know.
I don't recall anything going on the 8th.
This is from a different timeline, Basil. You got to understand.
That is weird.
This is from a different timeline of the past. You know, these people, the 6th, the 8th, it's all blending together. Mm-hmm. Were QAnon followers, and some even wore Q-branded clothing. The rioters were irate and incredulous when Trump lost the election and deduced that the only explanation for it was that he is being victimized by a secret organization of powerful pedophiles and child traffickers who had arranged widespread voter fraud to secure the election for Biden. Among the wild theories tied to QAnon is Frazzle Drip, a far-fetched theory that claims there's a video of Hillary Clinton and her former aide Huma Abedin mutilating a young girl and drinking her blood as part of a satanic ritual. I remember hearing about that. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, I guess, people in law enforcement that were coming out and saying, "Oh, we've seen the footage and made my stomach turn. I almost threw up," and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a couple FBI guys, I think.
Yeah, QAnon also believes the Pizzagate theory that a pizzeria in Washington, D.C. was being used by powerful politicians and leaders to sexually traffic children. None of the theories have ever been supported by any evidence. Yeah, if you misdirect or represent the actual thing.
We gotta figure out if this guy is Q or not.
They were at first considered harmless, marginalized to a corner of the internet, but under Trump's presidency, they gained steam and have now infiltrated the real world of politics. And there's a Q post there. Boom, 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 boom. A week to remember. Dark to light. Blackout necessary. And then there's a picture of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has said in the past that she believes some of what QAnon teaches, and some voters factored it in when deciding how to cast their ballots this year. Watkins lived with his father in the Philippines in the early 2000s. It's believed he is now living in Japan, but it's unclear where. It is also unclear how old he is. QAnon took its roots after President Trump won the 2016 election. In 2017, the posts known as Q-drops started appearing online. They claimed that he was fighting back against the deep state network of pedophiles and that the world had no idea what was really going in within the highest levels of Washington power. Q claimed to be a military source with privileged information on the matter. They never revealed their identity, nor did they give proof for any of what they were claiming. But as Trump waged war on Democrats in Washington, and as he fought endless battles with the mainstream media, the theories, which once seemed far-fetched, started gaining sympathy. In January, the theory and those who support it were deemed terror risks. And it's got like a little blurb on QAnon and Trump.
Yeah. So, did you watch the Q thing? Do you know, what are they talking about? Did he just come out and say, "I am Q"?
No, he did not. No, he did not. Now, I have the clip that people were sharing around from the documentary, the HBO series, and basically, Watkins is being interviewed by the guy who made the film. I can't remember his name. What's his name?
I don't know.
Colin Holback. And Ron says some interesting things here, and the context is somewhat important because they were I think he was being asked about what he was doing, online with 8chan and all that kind of stuff. And here is his response. Here's the clip for those watching, and you can listen to it too.
Something shocking. Ron hadn't just been participating in Q research. It sounded like he was leading it.
Yeah, so thinking back on it, it was basically 3 years of intelligence training, teaching normies how to do intelligence work. It's basically what I was doing anonymously before, but Never as Q.
See that smile? Ron had slipped up. He knew it, and I knew it. And after 3 tireless years of cat and mouse, well...
Never as Q, I promise.
Never as Q.
Because I am not cute. It never was.
Oh, man.
All right, so that's the clip that everyone was sharing, where
Okay, I mean, I can see that. I don't know if it's entirely convincing, but okay.
yeah, so people are saying, you know, he kind of cleared his throat after saying he's not Q. He kind of pulls the camera away and maybe says like, "Oh shoot, I gave it up," but he does kind of smile. That is weird that he would smile after saying something like that, you know, never as Q, and then like, hey, big smile. And I think it's a little bit of
kind of reading into it.
That's what I was going to say. I think the filmmaker here, they needed a reveal. They needed a big payoff at the end of a 6-hour, you know, I think it was a series. So, of course, Ron Watkins is going to be nailed here because of this interview. But the stuff he said is interesting anyway. You know, it was basically 3 years of intelligence training, teaching normies how to do intelligence work, which, if you kind of think about it, that's kind of what Q was doing. All these people, you know, the digital warriors and whatever they were called, all doing research online and, you know, coming to help out the whole movement and whatnot. And he said it was basically what I was doing anonymously before, but never as Q. And so you can see how the filmmaker there, Cullen, would be like, wait, what do you mean? You were doing intelligence work or intelligence training? Getting people to normies to learn intelligence work, but not as Q? That doesn't make any sense, because that's kind of what Q is people, you know, getting all ramped up and doing what intelligence work would do.
Yeah. Well, you know, the interesting thing with this is that it presupposes that Q is one guy and always has been one guy, you know? And as we know, whether or not Q is one person or not, the Q movement has been co-opted by so many different movements. Sorry, movement's not the right word. Maybe demographics or communities. As we've pointed out before, you got the Christian Q, you've got the New Age Q, you've got the sort of Antifa Q, you've got the, you know, there's all sorts of different Q communities that sort of latched on to the anonymous nature of what Q was posting, and there's no way to ever know if he was one guy or not. And yeah, of course, this guy spends 3 years making an HBO miniseries documentary. He needs something. Yeah, he needed something, and the most that he could come up with is this guy who obviously likes attention and is sort of a, you know, internet wonderkind type guy. It says a little, you know, smiles after saying with these sorts of things, highly edited. You know how these documentaries are. What was that guy's name? Mike. Oh no, who's the guy who made the Fahrenheit 9/11? And Bowling for Columbine.
Yeah, the guy who gets all riled up, Michael Moore.
Michael Moore, right.
Yeah.
You know, that was the thing with Michael Moore, is he made all these documentaries that had such, you know, extreme conclusions, and he would catch people saying things and yada, yada, yada. And then later on, he got busted for just being very good at editing and taking comments out of context and stuff like that. Not to say that the guy, you know, is a total fraud, but he did publicly get caught. Doctoring is not the right word, but just using very clever editing. Yeah, very clever editing out of context, misrepresenting what people are saying. And it's just so easy to do, especially if you've got the credibility of having an HBO deal. Then, you know, it just kind of is what it is. So anyways, maybe I am sure that this guy, Ron, I'm sure he has made posts that are attributed to Q. But to say that like he is solely responsible for the entire movement, I think is misleading, and also just good PR so this guy can get another HBO deal.
Yeah, and if we look at the history, there was obviously, Q's first few posts were on 4chan, and then I remember there was like a big hubbub, and then it all moved to 8chan. And so, he was obviously there when that happened. Yeah, it was a hubbub.
Is that like a hullabaloo?
The hubbub, whatever. And so there was that whole drama, and certainly if you're behind the scenes with something like 8chan, it'd be so easy. Everything is anonymous. That's the thing. Anybody can post as Q, anonymously if you know what you're doing. So
yeah,
that's one of those things where did he or did he not? Who knows? Does it matter? Well, it will matter if law enforcement decides to do something about anybody who was involved in it. There's some, I think do we have some stories about that? I think we might have some
January 6th stuff.
Yeah, I think we do coming up here in the POLYTICK, or
January 8th apparently now.
January 8th. Yeah, I guess it's part of the narrative of, hey, anybody involved with the insurrection is going to be legally, they're going to be, people are going to go after them legally or whatever. If that's the case, and then they go after this guy, then sure, he might have a reason to push back on something like this. But, again, he was banned on Twitter in January, and he was pushing a lot of the voter fraud stuff from the electronic
he was like
side.
A main source. I mean, we even used him as a source for some.
Well, we reported that he was saying stuff. Nothing.
Right, that's what I mean.
Crazy, nothing.
The reports going around, a lot of it was coming directly from his Twitter account. So yeah, I have no doubt that he was on board and did some dissemination. I don't even really think Q is one person. I mean, I still hold to Q being a modern day Operation Truth. So, I'm sure there's lots of people behind it, and possibly many organizations, possibly intelligence organizations from the US and around the world, but who knows? The real interesting thing, remember at the beginning in the olden days, at the beginning of lockdown with Joe Exotic and Tiger King?
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up going to jail specifically because the documentary came out, and Carol Baskin's, her like murder investigation got reopened because of the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be interesting to see with this. I mean, because of this documentary, if old Ronnie boy here starts getting investigated, maybe goes to trial, see if the court system can pin him on being Q. That'll be the really interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, and can they even find him? They don't even know where he is.
Somewhere in Japan,
hiding out. I mean, whatever. But I guess that's just the way things are going to be from in the new world order. And instead of things happening in a court of law, it's just going to be make documentary, then bring him to court after they're found guilty.
Interesting how the court of public opinion has become so much more powerful over the past 4 years.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if anything comes out of this, but I don't know. It seemed like I saw a lot of people sharing this clip on Twitter, like, oh, it's we figured it out.
Got him.
Yeah, but again, I don't think it's that simple. I think you're right that it's more of an intelligence operation, and maybe he was paid to perpetuate it, perhaps. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's involved.
He might be involved in some way, but why would you even be interviewed? If you really wanted to conceal the fact that you might be involved, or is
the other side of it is the, like with serial killers and stuff, part of them maybe wants to get caught.
Right.
Or, maybe that's part of the plan. Trust the plan, Gons. They got to pin it on somebody, or else everybody will realize that it was the CIA the whole time.
Right. Yeah, but the other part of it too is, this guy likes attention. He got his Twitter taken away. It could very easily be like, hey, I'm going to hint at it as a joke to get attention kind of thing too. You never know. But I don't know. I don't think it really matters in the end. I think this is more of a somewhat of a PR stunt to get people to watch Q Into the Storm and to support the narrative that everybody who was part of the insurrection on January 6th/8th is a crazy conspiracy theorist, right-wing extremist. And, so you can just shut him down. I think that's the ultimate plan here for this whole operation, is to bring people down. Yep.
All right. Well, should we talk about the Waccine a little bit?
Waccine.
Now, CNN has been on a roll lately, Gons. I don't know if you've noticed this.
Yeah, they've really been on top of it, the communist news network there.
So I don't know where to start. I guess we can start with this CNN.com CNN business.
Yeah, I'm going to play some of this because the headline here is research exec, far right groups pushing vaccine as mark of the beast.
Ooh,
and there's
some research exec got paid millions of dollars to go onto Facebook.
Misinformation virus, and on the bottom subtext here, Q-ANON, Proud Boys, and other groups spread vaccine misinformation. And I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to play part of this guy's response here. Let's hear what he has to say. This is, what's the guy's name? Let me see. Devin Burgart for the Institute for Research and Education on Human Rights. Here's what he says.
That are resonating within it.
It's an incredibly diverse coalition. It's one of the most diverse we've seen in quite some time. For one thing, this movement right now has attracted a lot more women to it than it has before.
He's talking about QAnon, by the way. Or I think QAnon is part of the anti-vax thing, but yeah.
It breaks down pretty much all the stereotypes we have about those involved in far-right activity. They're more likely to be employed. They're more likely to be of upper income. They're more likely to be women, and they're more likely to have a higher degree of education. So those are big changes that we're paying really close attention to. And as a result of that, the kind of plethora of propaganda that they've used has also changed as well. Now they're using all kinds of different messages to reach different crowds. So it's everything from anti-vaxxer messages targeted at moms and yoga influencers to conspiracies around COVID-19 vaccine being the mark of the beast to COVID-19 being
So is he saying the people participating in spreading conspiracy theories are higher educated, high income women?
Yep. I think he's specifically talking about QAnon. Do you want me to include the question?
No, I trust you if that's what it was. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it might be good for context.
Just for context, yeah.
It's just interesting. I didn't really have much more to say besides just the point that goes completely against the mainstream doctrine of conspiracy theorists are uneducated, low-income men. That's always been the criticism or the it shouldn't necessarily be a criticism, but that's what they say to discount conspiracy theorists. It's like, oh, it's just uneducated poor people who just want to feel some control in their lives. And this guy's saying it's completely the opposite. Highly educated rich women.
Yeah. It's because I think because it doesn't fit the narrative, they have to come up with different explanations. Yeah, I think this is
it could be the amorphous nature of Q also, that they just found a different group.
Yeah, but this, I think it's consistent with something that we're seeing a lot of here. This is a headline from National Post. Avi Benlolo. Are educated people more anti-Semitic? This was published 3 days ago. So there's this concerted effort in the news right now where they're saying higher educated people are more anti-Semitic than you'd think. It's a very strange
That is
push.
Interesting. It's because, and it's, again, kind of going with this shift that we've been seeing. I mean, we've been identifying some sort of shift, well, plenty of shifts over the past few years, but the shift from, calling people poor and uneducated, so don't trust them, has sort of stopped working. Mm-hmm. It's not quite getting us, we're not getting the public opinion polls that we want by blaming uneducated poor people. So let's try switching it around because, excuse me, my goodness. Because now, it's all about mobilizing poor people against the rich. That's how we're going to get our Great Reset. That's how we're going to get, systemic change, things like that. I don't know. Let's keep going. This is very interesting.
Tool for a one world government to use to try and take over the planet. Those are oftentimes combined with anti-Semitic conspiracy theories to, kind of further rile up this base. And as a result, we've seen many of these groups now not only engage just, typical anti-vaxxers, but also bring in armed militia types and other far-right paramilitaries to create a really toxic mix to make it harder for those on the front lines trying to get out the vaccine. And actually, in some cases, even threatening the lives of doctors and public health officials who are doing their jobs and trying to fight the pandemic.
There you go. So, again, it's interesting how they're just kind of sweeping together, switching it up to the higher educated women narrative, and then going straight into the they're pushing the anti-vax, they're pushing that it's the mark of the beast, they're pushing that it's a one world government, and they're a paramilitary. It's a big anti-Semitic. They're just they all need to be arrested.
They're all the things.
They're all the things. The big toxic mix of haters and people that should not be part of society. And that's kind of the push of the direction of this thing, is that these folks are not worthy to participate in society. And I don't know, it's troubling, but not surprising. But yeah, I did want to highlight the anti-Semitic thing because, again, there's been a slew of articles in the last couple weeks saying that anti-Semitism on the rise, and people of higher education, the higher they are in education, the more anti-Semitic they seem to get, and blah blah blah. So,
which is interesting because originally, not originally, but in the early to mid 20th century, anti-Semitism was an academic pursuit. It was an academic milieu. It was only after World War II that anti-Semitism became, again, this whole switcheroo of like, it was a uneducated thing. It was a poor person, uneducated thing to hate people. When, a lot of the eugenics, a lot of the, race superiority, those were all academic pursuits.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's kind of following the same pattern.
Yeah, and then the article here on National Post actually mentions that 8 of the 15 men who approved the Nazis' final solution on January 20th, 1942 held doctorates and were highly regarded in the Nazi party as so-called intellectuals.
Yeah, right.
Which is kind of interesting, too, because so much of the mainstream media has been in bed with public academia to support what they're saying. It's kind of like a big mixture, this toxic mixture of big pharma, public education, and mainstream media all peddling lies. But
lies.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think we are seeing a kind of a paradigm shift, and I think as we go forward here, and we'll talk about the aliens and stuff like that after the break, but I do think there might be some more pressures amidst the ivory towers of mainstream media and education as we go forward here, and it has to do with some of the alien stuff. There's that June deadline for the government to reveal what know about UFOs and stuff. That could really create
not for the government to reveal, but for the intelligence agencies to reveal to Congress.
Right, but I think that's going to be a lot more public than people think.
Yeah,
it's not going to just be
certainly if it's used for some sort of psyop, that would be the case.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I got a clip from CNN here talking about shifts. Yes, we're talking about shifts, and CNN, of course, being a sort of a main propagation outlet. It's where these shifts sort of begin in the mainstream. Let's just jump right into this clip. Let's just play the whole thing.
You want to play the whole thing? Okay.
I do. It's not very long. It's a couple minutes.
We talk about vaccine hesitancy as something that's a political statement, but I think that it's much more than that. And I think that we do it a disservice when we think that it's just people trying to make us.
Okay, hold on. She's talking so fast. I don't have this on multiple speed, right? No, I don't.
I don't think
so.
Is
there a volume knob on this thing? Or there's no volume? Come on, CNN. Give us a volume bar.
No, you must listen to it at full blast. Be programmed. I will say, since it is kind of long,
it's
we'll
minute 50.
Jump in. We'll just jump in and say stop at certain points so we don't have to go back.
Everybody loves waffles.
Talk about vaccine hesitancy as something that's a political statement, but I think that it's much more than that. And I think that we do it a disservice when we think that it's just people trying to make a statement. It's people who may have some sort of underlying condition, some sort of health condition, they're just afraid. I mean, that's it. They're just afraid because it hasn't been around long. These vaccines are also new and it's also experimental. And they fear, well, maybe we'll learn something a year from now that will affect, my clotting disorder or affect, I hear women say, my fertility. I think that that's natural, but I don't know what you can say to people who are just sort of waiting for more information before they get vaccinated.
Okay, pause it real quick. Before the doctor gets in. So this was something very surprising. To suddenly, again, we've been living through a year of, more than a year, but especially the past year, a year of shaming anti-vaxxers and anti-science. And these people, again, are uneducated and yada, 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 crazy religious people, whatever it may be. But now we have a sudden turn going on CNN, a little shift towards, hey, maybe we shouldn't just be mean to these people. Let's try to understand it. They're making some good points. Couple things, a couple possibilities. One, again, the shame is not working how they thought it was or would, and they're realizing that they just get more pushback than ever. Creating this, one side against the other on the vaccine debate. But more likely, I think that there's more liberals, and in fact, I know this at least with the liberals in my life, there's more liberals than ever who are feeling alienated by their own media because, the straightforward logic of vaccine hesitancy just makes sense to a lot of them. And I think a lot more liberals are vaccine hesitant than the mainstream would appreciate them to be. And so they're realizing they got to stop alienating their base. Let's continue and see what the good doctor has to say.
I'll add to that real quick that we've read some articles about how to deal with skeptics and anti-vaxxers. And remember how all of them said, oh, don't get mad at them. Try to understand them. Mm-hmm. And I feel like she's just using that blueprint there of like, oh, we're trying to understand these people that are skeptical and, trying to frame what they're thinking and whatever. But let's see what the...
and she even says in there, oh, it makes sense. It totally makes sense. You're worried. It's new. Maybe you have underlying conditions, yada, yada, yada. And then, so the doctor here is going to give all the good liberals some advice on how to deal with vaccine hesitancy.
Yeah, I completely agree, Allison. I think we should not be demonizing people who are saying, I want to wait and see. I think we should understand. I understand why people want to wait and they want to understand more. Here's what I say to them. With every other vaccine that we have developed as humanity, almost every one of them, all the side effects that are important show up within the first few weeks and certainly by the first 2 months. So one of the reasons why many of us last fall were asking for the FDA to wait at least 2 months before making a decision about these vaccines, because if there were going to be problems, including fertility problems or other types of immune problems, that they would become apparent within 2 months of people getting vaccinated.
Hold on.
Okay, pause it.
How can you have a fertility?
So right, okay, no, I hear you. So first of all, he's saying in our human history of creating vaccines, we've always figured out if there are going to be problems within the first few weeks to the first few months. Now, first of all, our entire history of humans making vaccines, this is a brand new technology. We have never made a vaccine using this technology. So he's making a false equivalency that this vaccine is like all other vaccines, which is just categorically untrue. But he is saying, hey, so all the other vaccines work, so these ones should too. We're totally fine. And then, yeah, like you were just going to say, the problems with fertility. You are not going to find out in any scientifically adequate numbers if there are fertility problems in the first couple weeks to couple months. It's I'm no doctor, Gons, but I think it takes at least 9 months to figure out.
I've gone through the process a couple times here in the last few years, and I'll tell you, it takes more than 2 months for the whole process.
More than a couple weeks to a couple months to figure out if there's problems. Now, of course, you could figure out if there's fertility problems before, you take a baby to full term. But either way, even if you're trying to have a child, it's very common for it to take longer than 2 weeks to 2 months for many couples. So again, a false equivalency. And this is a doctor. This doctor is being so irresponsible just on a medically scientific basis. He's just spouting nonsense. But okay, we gotta have more empathy, more sympathy for the vaccine hesitancers.
Yeah, and for anybody who wants information in their research, I did find a CDC.gov historical vaccine safety concerns list, again, straight from the CDC. Links are in the description or actually not in the description. They'll be at canarycrynewstalk.com, hyperlinked there for this episode 320. But just to read them off real quick here. Cutter incident 1955, simian virus 1955 to 1963, swine flu vaccine and Guillain-Barré syndrome 1976, hepatitis B vaccine and multiple sclerosis 1998, rotavirus vaccine and intussusception, I think that's how you say it, 98 to 99, GBS and meningococcal vaccine to 2000. Meningococcal. 2005 to 2008, HIV vaccine recall 2007, H1N1 influenza vaccine and narcolepsy 2009-2010, porcine circovirus in rotavirus vaccines 2010, and HPV vaccine recall 2013. So yeah, there's a list there, and none of these really go into the nitty-gritty details of how long it took for people to realize something was wrong, or how long before the recall. I'm guessing it was more than a couple weeks. Maybe it was a couple months. I don't know. You got to look into each one of these and dig in.
Well,
but
who knows? I mean, it was a totally different thing. Anyways.
Completely different technology to begin with. But okay, let's see.
Not just a different vaccine for a different disease, an entirely different technology.
Yeah, let's see what else he says here.
That's what the FDA waited for. We didn't see those. Now we've got 104 million Americans have gotten a shot. We're not seeing complications in any meaningful numbers. And all of that, to me, is extremely reassuring. And I think that's the message we got to keep giving people.
165 million Americans. 165 million doses.
Okay, then they just kind of go off into whatever.
Just 165 million. Correct you, doctor.
Yeah. So what he said there was we haven't seen any negative side effects in any meaningful numbers. Okay. So, I mean, this gets a little subjective and it gets a little, philosophical, but what is a meaningful number?
Yeah.
If one person dies, if 100 people get a skin melting rash, if 1,000 people get a Julian Barr syndrome, whatever it is, I mean, just to say it's not a meaningful number shows, and that is a mindset of a medical dictatorship and a technocrat who, because it's not about the individual experience. It's about, well, we didn't kill that many people.
Well, because if it was the doctor's child or wife, that's one, but it would be, I would hope, meaningful. Yeah. if something happened and they got the vaccine. So,
and then, to use his own logic, I'm using the doctor's logic now. The death rate for COVID-19, I believe, is still significantly under 1% of infection rate. Yeah. I believe. I have not rechecked those numbers, but deaths have only gone down over the past few months. I'm assuming that the death rate is still under 1%. That might be considered a lack of a meaningful number of deaths from actually catching the disease. So again, it's this medical dictatorship, this technocracy, this we don't actually care what we say as long as it convinces people to take the vaccine mentality. And if something happens to you, don't worry. It's not a meaningful number to us. Oh, but also you can't sue anybody. You can't get any compensation. If something bad happens, you're just, it's too bad for you.
Well, I think we know everybody that appears on CNN.
They are scum.
And moving on here. Let's see. Oh, something going on out there. This is one more from CNN. This is CNN Politics, but it kind of, politics and the Waccine stuff kind of overlap now, so it's always a little difficult to figure out where to place things. US government moves AstraZeneca out of vaccine plant that suffered contamination. And we talked about the contamination issue with AstraZeneca in the last episode. The federal government...
I think that was Johnson & Johnson, wasn't it?
I think they have both. It says here, federal government has moved to stop any further risk of contamination at a Baltimore contract vaccine manufacturer where 15 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccine were spoiled last month, telling rival drug maker AstraZeneca it must move its production from the plant and find somewhere else to make its vaccines.
Oh, they're making it in the same plant?
What? Collusion, number one. Number two, this is take out two birds with one stone. If you're Pfizer, they're like, they're in the same warehouse. Let's just sabotage both of them at the same time.
It's a white label vaccine.
The Emergent Biosolutions plant in Baltimore was making coronavirus vaccines under contract to both Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca. Last month, a batch of Johnson & Johnson quote-unquote drug product failed quality control and was taken out of production. Both J&J and Emergent have said the government has directed Johnson & Johnson to fully take over its vaccine production at the plant. An administration official told CNN Saturday the company confirmed it was taking tighter control of the production process.
They were subcontracting their manufacturing. They weren't even involved in the manufacturing process.
And you would hope that these jabs that they're manufacturing to be distributed to millions of Americans, that they have a good tight control over the production process.
No. This was a real hands-off operation with J&J.
Yeah, this is not good. And but again, is this another sabotage situation?
Yeah, the ham sandwich fell in the vat.
Yeah, I'm waiting for I'm waiting for some kind of supervillain to come out of one of these plants. How the Joker fell into the thing of acid.
Unfortunately, it's probably not some sort of supervillain. It's just some businessman who's trying to cut corners on a mandatory vaccine or soon to be mandatory vaccine. All right. Wow. Well, this plot just keeps thickening. AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, both subcontracting, hands-off manufacturing to Emergent Biosolutions plant. Drop the ham sandwich in the vat. All right. I'm getting a good picture of this whole situation.
Yeah, and let me, let's just, I know the order of it's a little messed up for you, Basil, from the list we have here, but let's skip to the Johnson & Johnson story real quick from Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, while we're at it.
I can't get the whole article, and my little hack didn't work to get around the paywall.
I think I have it, unless a paywall pops up here. But this is just a real quick one. Mm-hmm. No need to go too deep into it. But Wall Street Journal, the headline is Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine emerges as preferred shot for homeless.
It's Johnson preferred for the homeless.
It's preferred. They have preferences. You know, that old saying that beggars can't be choosers? Not so much with the vaccine. So. Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine has found a niche among organizations that work with the homeless, who say the one-dose shot is better suited for a population that can be difficult to reach twice. The U.S. homeless population has soared during the pandemic. Shelters have become a source of spread as experts puzzle over how to stem stubbornly high infection rates despite an aggressive national vaccine rollout. Interesting note here, see how they specifically mentioned shelters have become a source of spread. Mm-hmm. We've covered it pretty much the whole year. Notably low spread through the homeless who are not in shelters.
Yep.
Because they're outside, they're just doing their thing and have somehow avoided the brunt of the COVID-19 virus. It's only until they go into the shelters that they start getting it. You know what? It goes into a whole long story, but the wrap up is because Johnson & Johnson only needs one dose, and they don't have to ask homeless people to come back and keep a schedule and show up for the second dose. They're just giving them the Johnson & Johnson. But I don't know if it's a coincidence. I don't know if it's just a product of the market. You know, the Johnson & Johnson is kind of like the food for less version, the value, the value dose, where it's a little bit cheaper. You only need one dose, but it's also the one that is subcontracted for manufacturing in a loosely monitored manufacturing plant.
Yeah, well,
that killed 15 million doses.
Well, that's kind of the
trouble.
That's kind of the feeling I'm getting, which is, well, there could be some issues with this one. Let's just give it to the homeless, you know, because who cares if the homeless die?
Go. I mean, really, though.
Yeah.
Like, geez Louise.
I mean, that could literally be the conversations taking place in the back room. Like, oh, what are we going to do about this homeless situation? Well, if we check out this idea, give him the Johnson & Johnson, and PR is great because, hey, we're giving the homeless people an opportunity to be safe from the pandemic. Yeah, but then if they die, then, hey, we get the cleaner streets.
Yeah, and there's more homeless than ever. And give them the cheap one, the one that doesn't need to be kept at minus 200 degrees or whatever it is. Negative 80, I believe it was. Yeah, so there you go.
It kind of is
you can load it up into a little lunch box and send out some volunteers and one jab and they're good to go. Who cares about quality control?
And the logic, too. It's like, oh, it's hard to find homeless people twice. They really wanted to find people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is true. I just don't think, they got other things to worry about.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, anyway, yeah, let's just keep going here. There's a couple more stories that I want to cover here. This next one, sorry, I'm skipping around from the order of things there, but this one is from woodtv.com. 2 groups tend to report more COVID vaccine side effects. This is why. They're doing some profiling here. Headaches, chills, fever, these are just a few of the side effects some have reported after getting the Moderna or Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines. Why do some people experience more side effects from the vaccine than others? We don't quite know, says Stanford University infectious disease physician Ann Liu. What we do know are trends, and typically women and younger people tend to report a greater intensity of side effects than older and male individuals. Male pride, what is it? What's the patriarchy at play again? Quote, that's not to say they have more symptoms, however, Liu said, adding that it's possible that younger folks and women just report their symptoms with more frequency. Quote, I'm going to make a big generalization here.
No.
Why are we making generalizations, science person? But our culture typically discourages men from bringing their symptoms to attention, Liu said. Okay. Very scientific. As for why younger people experience more symptoms, that could be a result of them having stronger immune systems. Oh, what? They have stronger immune systems, so they have more of an effect. What is this? Is this weakening their immune system, possibly? Quote, older people's immune systems tend to get weaker over time, Liu explained, meaning their reaction to the vaccine will be less intense. Quote, if you have no side effects, you may have a weaker response, Liu said.
This is all part of the storyline of, if you get super sick from the vaccine, that means it's working.
Yeah, exactly. That's not to say the vaccine isn't working. The immune system is complex and multi-pronged, and side effects aren't the only sign the vaccine is efficacious. Quote, overall, the vaccines are very effective in all groups studied, Liu said. Both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are about 95% effective at preventing COVID-19 infection, the drug makers have said.
Except in animals.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the reason why the mRNA vaccine technology was not used and didn't come to public consumption until now, because ever since 2002, they've been doing it in animals, and they've been destroying. Yeah, they've been killing animals.
They couldn't finish an animal trial because they murdered all of them.
Yeah, the matter of vaccine side effects prompts a second question: why does the second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine appear to have more symptoms than the first dose? According to Dr. William G. Greeno III, a professor emeritus at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, who's known for his work on cholera, says there's a simple explanation for the increase in side effects. With the first
Gons?
Yeah.
Real quick, I don't want to make a big deal about it, but just because it's been 2 episodes in a row now, it's cholera. Cholera.
Cholera. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cholera. Cholos. Oh, now we're really just racist against the Mexican people. It's a cholera. Okay. With the first dose, your body begins building its initial immune response, including producing antibodies. But with the second shot, aka the second exposure to the virus, quote, the big guns of your immune system react. The big guns. Quote, once your immune system recognizes the virus after the second dose, it's going to have a greater reaction to it, Greeno said. This is a sign the vaccine is working and that your immune system, quote, recognizes the vaccine in your body. With the second dose, your body not only creates antibodies, but spurs your lymph nodes and other parts of the body to react to the vaccine at the tissue level, hence additional side effects. That's how the article ends. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel any better about it. Is there more? Oh, I guess this is... Oh, there's more, I guess. No, this is a different story. Yeah, that's it.
That's a weird ending.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, oh, okay. That makes me want to not take it even more. So thank you for that information.
Well, don't worry, Gons. I, a good liberal reporter from CNN, understand you.
Great. So there you go. Women and children tend to report more issues because they whine. They're whiny. And men don't, because we're men. We don't complain about the side effects.
That's so funny because it kind of goes against the fun mainstream thing where, women have much higher tolerance for pain. I just see it in memes and stuff, when a mom gets a cold, you'll never know it. She goes takes care of the kids, cleans the house, goes to work, does the yoga, picks up the kids, yada, yada, yada. But when daddy gets a cold, he can't get out of bed. I don't know. That might be a little bit too vague, but it just is kind of weird. It goes against that, that that whole storyline.
The narrative, yeah. Well, there you go. A couple more things here. We have indoor events returning in California this month. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I was just going to go through real quick. I don't know if there's not too much to it.
I don't think you need to read it per se, because it's...
Yeah.
It's not much in there.
California will allow indoor live events to resume with limitations beginning later this month, meaning an imminent return of things like concerts, sports, contests, and theatrical performance that have long been off limits on account of COVID-19 pandemic. So yeah, California finally starting to lift some of these restrictions. Do you think this is a Newsom response to losing his job?
Oh, I would assume so, yeah. I think he's trying to get everybody back on normal, quote-unquote normal, so that he can keep his job.
You know what's funny? Is some of the details in this article are exactly the same as the talk about Disneyland opening. You know, the red tier, the yellow tier, the orange tier. It's all based off of, percentages of people who can show up. It's the exact same info from Disneyland, but it's like Disneyland got to have their own press release about it. Because it's about the same timing as well as Disneyland. I guess it was all theme parks opening up in April. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that ever-powerful theme park lobby group in California just like had a deal where they could announce that they're going to open up before anybody else. Yeah, it's the same rules and it's the same timing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they are, I guess people consider Disneyland as sort of the pinnacle of being out in public. You know, it's kind of like the ideal, hey, if Disneyland's open, then everything else is open kind of thing.
Sure.
But also April 15th, opening it up just in time for Hitler's birthday. Party on, 420. Everybody ready for that one? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just bring on the Hitler parade. Okay.
Oh, geez.
Get canceled. Someone's gonna ISO that.
For those who are just listening, Gons is a person of color.
It doesn't make it any better that I am of Japanese descent.
I was gonna say, I guess Japan was allied with Hitler. Yeah. Gons, you got to be more careful, I think.
Okay, maybe not.
All right.
Okay, and this clip, of course, was going viral over the weekend. This is the Polish pastor kicks out Canadian police from his church at Passover. And it's a couple minutes long here. I'm just going to play it, and we can stop it at any point.
It. I don't think I caught any bad words or anything.
Nope, I don't think there are.
All right.
Please get out. Get out of this property immediately.
Real quick.
Get out.
Yep.
Real quick, just to set it up for people who are just listening to the audio. If you haven't seen the clip, this is a clip inside of a church building here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least six cops. Yeah, 6 or 7 who have entered the foyer of a church. It looks like one of them looks more like a public health inspector.
Yeah.
Normal looking person wearing a fleece. The rest are cops. And the video starts with this pastor coming at him pretty hard here.
Get out of this property immediately. Out. I don't want to hear anything. Out of this property immediately. I don't want to hear a word. Out. Out. Out of this property immediately until you come back with a warrant. Out. 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 Out of this property.
They're not really moving. They're kind of just standing around.
Immediately go out and don't come back.
They're finally starting to move away.
Not a word. Out of this property. Out of
Meandering.
this property. Immediately out. I don't care what you have to say. Out! Out! Out of this property, you Nazis! Out! Out! Gestapo is not allowed here. Immediately, Gestapo is not allowed. Out! Do you understand English? Get out of this property. Go. So go. Go. And don't come back without a warrant. Out, Nazi. Out. Out! You understand? Nazis are not welcome here. Out. and don't come back without a warrant. Do not come back without a warrant. You understand that? You're not welcome here. Nazis
now they're
are
outside.
Not welcome here. Gestapo is not welcome here. Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths.
Love
that was
it.
my favorite part.
Unbelievable, sick, evil people. Intimidating people in a church during the Passover. You Gestapo, Nazi, communists, fascists. Don't you dare coming back here.
There they go.
Yeah, they just sort of the way they leave is so funny. It's very skulky. They're just kind of like meandering, not really moving with purpose. Almost like they're going slow just because they know they've been defeated, but they don't want to, give them the pleasure of just leaving or whatever.
Yeah,
just staring at the ground, kicking rocks. This got people fired up. Now, an interesting thing about this, the headline all over the place is Polish pastor. Polish pastor kicking out the cops. Polish pastor rants at the cops for coming in. Polish, they kept repeating this. I was like, okay, Polish, interesting. The guy's speaking English. They're in Canada. So it's just kind of a weird thing. Why not say Canadian pastor? Why not say whatever? They just really
pastor
love
in
driving
Canada.
Home. Yes, pastor in Canada, whatever it is. But they kept driving this Polish pastor thing into the ground. And I think it's because it's a stronger connection to kicking Nazis out.
Yeah, the history there.
Yeah.
The Wola massacre. I think 40 to 50,000 Polish civilians and enemy combatants were killed by Nazi troops.
Yeah, it's much more. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Much more powerful to have a Polish pastor kicking calling them Nazis and kicking the authorities out than to just have a Canadian pastor. Plus, Canadians, they're so polite. I don't think anybody would have believed.
Yeah, and I don't feel bad. Feeling bad might not be the right description, but the police officers themselves are just kind of doing what they're being told to do. By showing up to a church like this and doing what they're doing, trying to shut it down or whatever it was. But of course, the overreach is pretty obvious, and we got some good ISOs. We can really kick people out of situations that are pretty illegal, if you want to call it that.
Sure.
We just call it for what it is. Nazis are not welcome here, and also
do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths.
Just call them Nazi psychopaths. It's pretty straightforward.
Nazi psychopaths. That is such a great part of it.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, there you go, folks. Made it happen. I'm not really sure what now, obviously, they had two of the public health inspectors or whatever. So, but, showing up in force like they did on Passover, coming into the church, it's not a good look.
Yeah, and what were they trying to do? Like just shut it down because a few people were gathered? It doesn't seem like it was a crazy bustling church.
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't. There was only one other voice to be heard that wasn't shown on camera, so I don't know how many people were there, what was going on.
Yeah, but know your rights, folks.
Yeah, come back with a warrant.
Yep. All right, we got a couple politic updates and then we'll take a break.
Okay.
It's Latin for many. Tick. Now suck your blood. Now politics. Your blood.
You want me to go? Okay, I'll go.
You want me to go? Yeah, whatever.
New York
I want to
Times. What do you want to do?
The only one I want to make sure to do is the
My Pillow
the
guy?
judges, the Capitol Hill people.
Oh, okay. Well, you can do it right after this one because they kind of connect.
Okay.
This is New York Times. Live updates. 1 officer killed and 1 injured in vehicle attack at U.S. Capitol, and suspect is dead, police say. This was from last week. It was happening live as we were on air. And this is the aftermath and, trying to figure out if it fit narratives or didn't fit narratives. And the report says, from the New York Times, remember the outlet, the Capitol Police said the threat has been neutralized. Congress is on recess, and President Biden left Washington for Camp David earlier on Friday. Capitol Police Officer William F. Evans was killed and a second officer was injured after being rammed by a vehicle at the heavily guarded northern entrance to the U.S. Capitol on Friday. The acting chief of the Capitol Police said the suspect was shot and killed. Officer Evans, an 18-year veteran of the force who served with the department's first responders unit and was known to friends as Billy, was injured in the violent confrontation and died shortly after. The chief, Yogananda D. Pittman, said in a statement, quote, "It is with a very, very heavy heart that I announce one of our officers has succumbed to his injuries," Ms. Pittman said, her voice choked with emotion. Quote, "I just ask that the public keep the U.S. Capitol and their families in your prayers." Speaker Nancy Pelosi called Officer Evans, quote, "a martyr for our democracy." Interesting how for this occasion the officers are martyrs, but for other occasions down with the police.
I know that. Well,
very obvious.
I've really had a hard time coming. When you pay as much attention as we and our producers and listeners do, things can get really frustrating. And we just got to remember, they're just, it's all about control.
It's all politician.
All the specifically with mainstream media, they'll just pick and choose when cops are good or bad whenever it serves their particular agenda at the moment.
After ramming the officers, the attacker, quote, exited the vehicle with a knife in hand and began lunging at the... Interesting, Miss Pittman. I think it was at them. There's a typo in here. Typo, New York Times. Miss Pittman said at a news conference near the scene of the attack, the suspect was subsequently identified by a senior law enforcement official as Noah Green, 25, of Indiana. At least one of the officers was medevaced to the hospital, according to law enforcement officials, and a National Guard quick response team and the local police were on hand at the already heavily fortified Capitol complex. Investigators do not yet know the motive for the attack, but do not believe it was, quote, terrorism-related at this time, Chief Robert Conti of the Washington Metropolitan Police Department told reporters. Ms. Pittman did not identify Mr. Green, but said that the driver had not been previously known to her agency. On his Facebook page, which has since been taken down, Mr. Green described himself as a supporter of the Nation of Islam leader, Louis Farrakhan, and said he had been struggling.
That's why it's not terrorism, because it wasn't a white man.
Yeah, and said he had been struggling through the last few months of the pandemic. The attack was the most serious security threat at the Capitol since the deadly January 6th riot that injured dozens and killed 5. President Biden ordered flags at the White House to be flown at half-staff in honor of Officer Evans, and Miss Pelosi ordered the same at the Capitol complex. Is it Miss Pelosi? Is she married, or is
question.
she?
I have no idea. I
divorced?
thought she was married.
I don't know. Mr. Biden, Camp David, and just some quotes here. So, yeah, really not a whole lot about this guy here. And
well, it doesn't matter.
I know.
He's Nation of Islam, so stop reporting on it. You only report on it if it's a MAGA person.
And I did see one headline, which I should have tagged and, just put into the report today. Mm-hmm. It said basically like, the killer of the attack at the Capitol is a supporter of Nation of Islam, believes in Antichrist and like other conspiracies or something like that. Let me see.
Really?
Let me try to find it.
Yeah, well, that's so interesting because that is just a beautiful manipulation of context because he could believe in the Islamic Antichrist.
Yeah, let's see here. I'm not seeing it. Yeah, that was a problem. I did see it the other day, and then I tried to find it again when I was putting the show together, and I wasn't able to pull it up after a few minutes of searching. So maybe they changed the headlines or something like that.
Yeah, that's always possible.
Yeah, but that was sort of one of the headlines anyway. The sentiment thrown out there is he's an extremist, and it doesn't fit the narrative of white
and
guy.
This broke during last episode, so I remember we did kind of mention it. The weird thing, talking about how he crashed into a barricade and jumped out with a knife. This was interesting because my immediate thought was, suicide by cop, because of course ram a car into a barricade and jump out with a knife. What are you expecting to happen?
Right.
But with the Nation of Islam angle on it, it kind of does make this a martyrdom.
Yeah, it truly does.
Because if he's a jihadist, this would technically count as jihad, and this would get him all his rewards.
Oh yeah, all the versions in heaven or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I've since learned that the belief in the virgins is more of a metaphorical thing, but who knows?
It's not literal in the afterlife. Oh,
yeah, I don't know.
That's too bad.
Not important for the context of this conversation.
No. Yeah, but there you go. I mean, again, doesn't fit the narrative, so it's pretty much gone away. I haven't heard much about this since it happened.
No, I did see a follow-up article about the chief of the Capitol Police there, sort of making a call for more support from Congress. Apparently, they're understaffed as it is. They claimed that a lot of the Capitol Police, the younger guys, are talking about leaving the agency, switching to a different agency. They have 500 retirees coming up in the next year, so they're going to be even extra short-staffed, and nobody wants to work for the Capitol Police. There's a fun little detail in that article. Is like the chief of police still believes that they should take down the barricades and the fences, but they need to,
I really
resource his department.
I don't want to be too fatalistic here, but this really does feel like our government, at least the way we had been taught, works to some extent, completely out the window. Like we're really entering an era where things are going to change around this country.
How do you mean? You mean security wise?
Not just security wise, but it's because it's so convenient that they're not like getting anything done in Washington.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And,
the classic uselessness.
Yeah, yeah.
Of the American bureaucracy and specifically Congress. And
not that it was doing anything too useful before, but I'm saying that even more so because it's so dangerous. We can't go there.
Yeah, well, that's the unfortunate thing with the Capitol Police. Again, most of you got to remember, police are sort of dehumanized in a lot of cases. And look, I'm not a huge fan of police brutality and overreach of the government and authority and things like that. But these are just guys who have a job, and they can, they are. A lot of them have families, I'm sure. But the fact of the matter is, Congress and the White House, they want to keep those barricades up. They love their wall when it's around them.
Their moat.
And if the way to make sure that they get to keep their barricades up is by not funding the Capitol Police, they'll do whatever they got to do to keep those barricades up.
Yep.
So
right.
I'm not very optimistic.
No.
So related to that, I got a fun story for you, Gons, coming from news.yahoo.com. This is mirrored from the Los Angeles Times, and the headline is Uncharted Waters. Judges are banning some Capitol riot suspects from the internet. Okay, it doesn't sound too crazy, but let's get into it here. Oops. Beverly Hills esthetician and eyelash stylist Gina Bisignano was so present on social media that the federal criminal complaint against her practically wrote itself. The story of a 52-year-old salon owner who charted a dark path of disinformation a dark path of disinformation to the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, where she allegedly grabbed a bullhorn and urged rioters to take up weapons, is backed by one social media post after another, embedded in the Department of Justice filing. There is Bisignano, I wish I knew how to pronounce her name, Bisignano, I'll just say that, in her Louis Vuitton sweater. Of course, we gotta, again, poke fun at the wealthy here. Filmed in front of the Capitol, talking about her business and hometown Again, she's like advertising her business, her eyelash business. As the riot was getting underway, there she is again addressing rioters with a rant about globalists, George Soros, and stolen votes, and again calling for weapons and gas masks moments before a rioter attacked an officer with what appeared to be a baseball bat. Now, Bisignano has gone silent online. She is not allowed on the internet. Not because social media platforms banned her, but because a federal judge did. If Bisignano goes online while awaiting trial, she risks being jailed. Judges have long been reluctant to ban anyone from the internet, a restriction that essentially cuts a person off from much of modern society and has been reserved mostly for accused and convicted pedophiles. But as toxic disinformation becomes an increasingly dangerous threat, driving domestic terrorism and violence, the courts are facing vexing new questions around how often and under what circumstances those accused of taking part should be taken offline altogether. Quote, "We are headed into uncharted waters," said Nina Jankowicz, a fellow at the Wilson Center, a Washington think tank, where she studies disinformation. Quote, "Given the threats we see continuing and the heightened alerts, it is clear things are not dissipating. That is why judges are making these calls. In the case of Bisignano, the ban might have been an easy one for the judge to make. The defendant asked for it. Her lawyer saw it as one of the few bargaining chips the Capitol riot suspect from California had to stay out of jail for now." Quote, "If it weren't for social media, she wouldn't even be a defendant," said Bisignano's attorney, Charles Peruto. Quote, "She knows that is what got her jammed in the first place." Similar defense as the QAnon shaman, this sort of, Facebook made me do it. Yet attorneys for others accused of taking part in the attack on the Capitol are aggressively fighting the restrictions, and judges are struggling with how far to take them. Prosecutors have moved to bar at least 5 defendants in the Capitol insurrection from going on social media platforms or even going online at all, according to a review of court filings by The Times. Those defendants are awaiting trial dates that will be months away as the Justice Department grapples with one of the most complex and all-consuming investigations in its history.
Really?
They include... Yeah.
Wow, that's
Isn't
crazy.
that interesting? Most complex and all-consuming investigations in history. They include John Sullivan, a Utah man accused of obstructing Congress as he allegedly joined the rampage through the Capitol in tactical gear, encouraging rioters to do damage. Over the objections of prosecutors, a federal magistrate judge ruled Sullivan may continue supervised use of Facebook, Twitter, and encrypted platforms. Supervised use of encrypted platforms. Yeah, so if you're friends with... who is this? John Sullivan on Signal. Don't think your convos with him are private. In arguing for the ban, prosecutors pointed to video of Sullivan threatening police, breaking a window, and telling other rioters, "We got to get this S burned." Yet Sullivan's attorney, Steve Kirsch, argued that the defendant was there as a journalist, claiming he sold some of his footage to news networks. He accused prosecutors of trying to impede his client's ability, quote, "to communicate in the way the vast majority of Americans communicate." The restriction, Kirsch wrote in a court filing, would prevent Sullivan from keeping up with friends and family online or even checking the news, as media websites which invite user comments fall under the umbrella of social media. Such concerns drove the U.S. Supreme Court in 2017 to strike down a North Carolina law that prohibited convicted sex offenders from using social media platforms. The court found that the ban unconstitutionally put out of reach, quote, "what for many are the principal sources for knowing current events, checking ads for employment, speaking and listening in the modern public square, and otherwise exploring the vast realms of human thought and knowledge." Quote, "Courts are recognizing that social media is very important to people's lives in a number of ways," said Alexis Carteron, director of the Rutgers Constitutional Rights Clinic. In September, the Rutgers Clinic and the American Civil Liberties Union persuaded a federal court to block enforcement of a New York law broadly banning social media use by sex offenders. So let those sex offenders back online is what they're saying. There are unquestionably serious rights at stake. So just to sum up what just was mentioned, some of these quote unquote rioters in the January 6th incident are getting harsher punishment than pedophiles, which is pretty crazy and also ironic considering
the whole
some of the
conspiracy stuff.
Yeah. The Ohio Supreme Court found as much in June. Let me skip down a little bit because they kind of just go through a few cases. Quote, the potential abuse of speech rights in the future cannot justify the blanket prohibition imposed here on speech before it has even been uttered, the court wrote. As the court strained to navigate the implications of cutting people off from social media in a society where its use is increasingly essential function, the surge of criminal behavior driven by disinformation is making the task more challenging. Just let me, okay, sorry, it is kind of a long one, but lots of little details that need to be covered. Quote, there's some real concerns that people have that social media has led people to abnormal conduct, to make poor decisions, which also speaks to the sort of brainwashing and mind control of social media as well. Washington, D.C. Magistrate Judge Zia Faruqi said during a late January hearing as he weighed whether to impose an internet ban in one of the highest profile cases following the attack on the Capitol, the defendant, 22-year-old Riley Williams, is accused of helping steal House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's laptop during the insurrection. I'm going to skip a little bit here. One interesting detail in Riley's case, who was part of stealing Nancy Pelosi's laptop, is she claims, or they claim, that they no longer have it, that they never had it, and law enforcement searched their house, couldn't find anything. And Riley was bragging about having stolen it. So they're kind of wondering where that is. So we still haven't seen anything pop up from allegedly Nancy Pelosi's laptop. It sounds like something that would pop up on like a Project Veritas or something, huh?
Yeah.
Beyond the legal and ethical challenges at issue, Faruqi confronted simple practical ones. After prosecutors warned that Williams might use the internet to destroy evidence, such as social media postings, and direct others to do the same, he ruled that she must stay off the internet and use only a flip phone to make necessary calls. But then came the question of whether Williams could even watch TV. A prosecutor at the hearing pointed out that smart TVs can access the web. The judge noted even some refrigerators are now connected online. A back and forth ensued over how Williams might be able to watch television while awaiting trial. It lasted a while. There was chatter about the Netflix app. The judge finally ruled that Williams could watch television under supervision of her mother, and that tapping into the device's web function could send her right back to jail.
Jeez.
The lengthy back and forth overall, the ways the court's effort to keep Williams from potential criminal behavior online could spill over into isolating her from society altogether, underscored by the challenges ahead as more crimes are hatched over social media and prosecutors move to boot perpetrators offline. Quote, these bans are not something that should be considered for your average criminal, said Yankowicz, but these are not your average cases. So there you go. Full banning from the internet by some of the people who showed up.
You know, when we first started just Canary Cry and you know, about a decade ago, we were looking at the internet and we were saying like people are going to be banned and all this kind of stuff. And at the time it was like, I don't even see how that can happen. Everyone can be on the internet. It's so free and open. Mm-hmm. And, you know, people just weren't aware of what was happening in China and stuff like that. But now it's almost as if the events themselves had to be a certain level of extremism, quote unquote, to justify the actions to get people offline.
Yeah.
And that pattern was pretty clear around the world. It just hasn't come to America. Well, it has now, but I'm saying it was more apparent in like other countries. I remember there was some protest that was organized, I think it was in Africa somewhere, through Twitter, when it was like the first few years Twitter was online, and people questioned like, oh, should they even be allowed to do that and stuff like that. But now it's very much come to America, and it's pretty wild how the way it's being framed is like, oh, it's just unprecedented how we would handle this situation.
Right.
And it's just, I don't know, it's just a weird thing altogether. But how are they going to, this is where the conversations about AI and all that, it's going to come into play, because there's just no way to monitor how much information is going to continue to be published online. And have you heard about how much data is online now?
No, you got numbers?
I do. According to, this is a couple years, this is 2 years old now, April 2019. So this is data from 2 years ago. Okay. 2 years ago. 2.5 quintillion bytes of data created each day.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. That's, it's a million followed, oh wait, hold on. Quintillion is 1 followed by 18 zeros, just so people have an idea of how much data.
That's crazy.
90% of the data in the world was generated in the last 2 years, and this is 2 years ago. So I'm guessing in the last 4 years, a majority of the data.
2 years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's insane. 3.7 billion people use the internet as of then, probably more closer to 4 now, which is like half the world. Communication every minute of the day. 16 million text messages, 156 million emails per minute every day.
Oh my gosh.
130 million spam emails sent every day, and 154,000 Skype calls every day. And there's a whole bunch of stats on here at the Information Overload Research Group website here. But there's just no way to monitor the amount of information online, and so the only way to monitor or at least control any of it is to control it from the individual, and especially individuals that don't comply to the greater narrative of where, the elite or whoever, the direction they want to take it. And so, this is just crazy that that we're in uncharted waters here, but really it's not uncharted if you're looking at the world and how they have responded to the internet in the last decade.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, even just banning people from the internet, like was discussed in the article, I mean, that's a much more extreme, that's, look, I don't want to sound like a over dramatic millennial or something, but the point was made by the judges that that's basically
banning them from society.
Well, yeah, it's banning someone, it's isolating them in a way that, even prisoners now get to go on the internet, like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's highly supervised, of course, but it's at least they're allowed to get on and do stuff.
Yeah.
That is a very special kind of isolation. And can you imagine if it was, especially during a lockdown situation, if somebody's living in San Francisco and they're like literally not allowed to leave their apartment and they're banned from the internet? That's almost a cruel and unusual punishment.
Here's what I want to know, though. How come she can't just be on the internet? How come it's not like, oh, don't post anything on the internet?
I think in her case, I think like was mentioned, it's just was the only bargaining chip they had.
Oh, okay.
I was looking, it must have been in one of the parts that I skipped, but it was a good point. The case built against her is just so strong, not because she spent her whole time posting, her events on January 6th on the internet, but she was caught on so many other people's
Right.
social media videos. And it goes back to this, we are surveilling ourselves.
Yeah.
And, I had some pretty strong words for people who showed up on January 6th and just kept posting. I mean, all the Parler media was released, and, you can see heat maps and time breakdowns of every Parler user posting from January 6th get together. Somebody's gonna get me for calling it a get together. Yeah. But it was basically self-surveilling. She was basically ratted out by her fellow protesters.
Yeah. Well, it's all because of Trump. And going to our next story here, this is Mediate.com. CNN's Jim Acosta, quote, "I think we're all dealing with some post-Trump stress disorder."
I'd love to hear from both of you how DC journalists are adjusting to the Biden era. Jim, this is your first weekend anchoring here on Saturday and Sunday afternoons. Do you feel like your rundown, your lineup is really different than it would have been in the Trump years?
When you're asking me if I was run down, I thought you were referring to how I felt during the Trump era. No, I think that, listen, I think we're all dealing with some post-Trump stress disorder, other than that happy Easter, as he was saying in those statements a few days ago. Listen,
He says listen twice. It's annoying. Listen, and then rambles, and then listen.
Because Andy was just the Biden dictionary.
He does.
Saying a few moments ago, there are questions about why aren't Republicans getting on board with these Biden proposals. There were Republicans who were getting on board with overturning the election just a couple of months ago. And so we shouldn't have high expectations for that. But in terms of stacking shows and what comes first and what comes second, Brian, you and I both know this all too well. We did cover the news before Donald Trump came along, and we did it pretty well. And, there's going to be plenty of stuff in the news out there, and it doesn't have to have Donald Trump in the headlines for us to continue.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Prove it.
Your numbers are going down like water down Niagara Falls. Anyway, there you go. I mean, we don't need to listen to Jim Acosta ramble on here, but the whole point being that he thinks that they're dealing with post-Trump stress disorder. Poor fellows, poor media fellows, and CNN.
So abused.
It's just such a rough life they live.
That's so funny. Yeah, you're right. The post-Trump stress disorder is, they bought new cars, they got new houses with all the money they were making off of the Trump era.
So much money off the Trump era, and that's they need it now that they've. The problem is, at the time it was producing numbers and stuff, but now they really do need like a boogeyman to really go after if they want views, because they've polarized the public so much that if there's not like a common enemy to go after, then nobody's going to watch. Nobody cares about CNN. Like, I'm sure there's very few people that are like, oh, I have to watch Jim Acosta's take on this political thing or whatever, so.
Poor Jim. All right. Well, one last one before we take a break here, Gons. We talked about Mike Lindell and his furthering of his lawsuits that he promises Trump will be back in office by August. And you know what? I would just love to see something happen if he's going to keep talking about it. I'm sure he's selling a lot of pillows, but just a little update. This is coming from Newsweek.com. Interesting detail. When I was looking at this article and kind of looking into some of the backstory, this has been being reported since February, and Newsweek just reported it yesterday. So I don't know. They just like to keep Mike Lindell at the top of our mind. But the headline reads, Mike Lindell admits MyPillow can't get back $65 million in revenue lost due to Trump ties. MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell admitted in a recent interview that his company won't be able to get back all of the $65 million he lost in lost revenue that has come as a result of his close ties to former President Donald Trump and its promotion of groundless conspiracy theories about the 2020 election. Groundless. More than 20 retailers have removed MyPillow products from their shelves since January, among them Sam's Club, Kohl's, and Bed Bath & Beyond. Lindell first told Insider in February that his his company had lost $65 million in revenue. In a follow-up interview published Sunday, the MyPillow CEO said that that chunk of change is not coming back. Quote, we obviously can't get that back. Okay. Yeah.
They're repeating the same thing like 5 times. You haven't said anything other than repeat the story that he lost $65 million so far. And how many paragraphs is it? 1, 2, 3, like 4 or 5 paragraphs.
Really wants you to hear it. We obviously can't get that back, Gons. We're going to lose that, Lindell told Insider. However, he said the company is working on a strategy to recoup at least some of the loss. The businessman pointed to growing revenue from podcasts and radio ads.
Ads.
Everybody loves waffles.
And pillows.
Ads will save Lindell. Will save the pillow man. And that's it. There's nothing really else to say.
You know what I think he should do? If he's going to go all in on the whole Trump deal, he should be like, he should just come out with the Q pillow. My Q pillow.
Probably not the worst idea.
No, that would do well. With a
there
certain
was
contingent.
some news regarding Lindell. Said, meanwhile, Lindell is facing a $1.3 billion defamation lawsuit brought by Dominion Voting Systems, which the businessman and other Trump allies have repeatedly claimed was involved in the alleged plot to, quote, rig the election. So, yes, he's now officially on the list of Dominion Voting Systems libel lawsuits.
Yeah. Well,
sorry, not libel. Defamation.
Defamation.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. He can still sleep well at night. Those pillows must be really, really well made. He just puts his head down and he's out. And he wants you to sleep through the night as well.
I don't believe it, man. I think he's made his $65 million back from the Q crowd.
I'm telling you, he should make that the Q pillow.
All right, let's take a break.
Break time.
Okay, folks, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere because right after the break, we've got more for you. We got some Chinese news. We're going to check in with a couple of the 4 horsemen of the technocalypse. We got some aliens, some alien news. We got to keep up with that. Get ready for disclosure. And, of course, we're going to be checking in with Cern and some witchcraft, some witchy witchcraft going on over there at Netflix. So stick around. But first, we want to thank some of our producers. That's right, Gons. I know you're confused.
I am. I'm always confused on the show.
Let me explain. You might notice, Gons, we haven't read any ads for Mike Lindell's My Pillow, or gotten any, given out any affiliate codes, anything like that. In fact, we take no corporate money whatsoever, not from YouTube ads, not from Super Chat, no nothing. That's because we are on the value for value model. What's that, you might ask, Gons? Well, let me tell you, the world is currently in the iron grip of the advertising industry. And you might not think that that's too big of a deal. I mean, you've been watching ads your whole life, watching Saturday cartoons, things like that. But here's the thing, Edward Bernays. Edward, you know this guy? Edward Bernays, Gons? You know this guy?
Ed B.
That's right.
Ed Burrs?
Ed Burrs.
Uncle Ed.
The godfather of advertising in the mid-20th century and notoriously the nephew of Sigmund Freud. So he knows his stuff. He was saying that, advertising is basically mind control, and that the average man needs an elite man to tell him what to think and what to buy. And, of course, that includes the Hegelian dialectic, where we are constantly having problems introduced to us that we didn't even know we had. But good thing we have advertising to tell us what to buy, to feel fulfilled and whole as a human being. Well, not here, folks. You won't find any products to make you feel more alive. Instead, the show is the product, and we're on the value for value model. So instead of you being considered as a customer, and not our customer, but a customer of the advertising industry, and not even a customer of the advertising industry, the product of the advertising industry, you don't give advertising industry money. No. They package you up as a commodity, like cattle on a train to be shipped off to be sold for their own personal gain. I know it's pretty messed up. That's why we are on the value for value model, which means no corporate money whatsoever, because every corporate sponsorship is a form of censorship. And instead, we invite you, dear listener, to become a producer of the show. That's right. I said producer, and that's the real thing. These are real credits. You can put them on your resume, put them on your LinkedIn, put them on your Twitter bio, whatever you want to do. If somebody questions you, just give them our email, and we will vouch for you. And it's just a much better system. We're not beholden to any corporations. We are only beholden to our producers, and that is you. There's a couple ways you can become a producer of the show. The first one is by heading over to patreon.com/CCNT. That's patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. Go ahead, head on over there, become a producer of the show. Gons, are you ready to thank some producers?
I got my gong in my hand.
Okie dokie. Yeah. We have a returning producer, and that's Patreon Account of the Year.
Patreon Account of the Year.
Thank you very much. And we had one come in during the show. Another returning producer Jacqueline P.
Jacqueline P., thank you for coming back.
Right. And there we go. That's all for that Patreon account. Now, we also have patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio. And if you haven't heard, Canary Cry Radio is a different show than Canary Cry News Talk. You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk. But if you haven't yet, check out Canary Cry Radio. That's our interview style show we've been doing since 2012. And it's got all sorts of very important conversations with researchers and authors and your type of people. Go check it out on your favorite podcatcher. And we have a new Canary Cry Radio producer, Gons, and that is producer David D. Actually, he's an upgrading producer.
Yes. David Duke?
Oh, gosh. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. And that's all for the Patreon producers. But that's not all, folks. If you don't like Patreon, that's okay. We understand. That's why we have canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right. Over on canarycryradio.com/support, you can read more about the value for value model. You can read about the Canary Cry roundtables of knights and dames. And there's also fun ways to become a producer, such as you can come in with a monthly producership, which we thank all of our monthly producers for helping lay down a firm foundation for the show. But if commitment is not your thing, you can make a one-time producership in any amount. That's right. The freedom you can feel. Gons. Oh, there's also cryptocurrency and stuff like that for you crypto folk. Gons, who do we have coming in on the
PayPal? We have first up Jennifer C.
Thank you very much, Jennifer C.
And she signed up for a recurring producer, so thank you for that for this one and going into the future. Next up we have Jimmy and Holly.
Thank you very much, producer Jimmy and Holly.
And they come with not a pocket full, but I don't know, backpack full of sevens.
Oh, great. 7777?
7777, and they have a note here.
There's a fanny pack full of sevens.
Is it a fanny pack?
I think that's what we decided.
That's right. Okay. And they have a note here. Hey, my husband and I are the ones who donated the 7777 and just wanted to say to Gons that Age of Deceit was what finally broke through to me and started me on the journey towards discovering truth. Well, praise God for that. I was just making a film. As the Lord doing the work there. My husband was sending me videos for a few years, and that's the one that finally made me see. So thank you so much for your work. And thank you as well, Basil. Love Jimmy and Holly. Thank you, Jimmy and Holly. Appreciate that. That's a very nice note. And
yes.
I'm noticing, a lot of people are still watching Age of Deceit. It's the most consistently commented video. Like every day there's more comments coming in on that film, and I don't know. I think YouTube's still making money off of it, to be honest. Like the ads that play on it or something. So,
right.
They're like, let him keep that video up because we're making a little coin off of it. So
yeah, well, it's I believe it is a seminal piece of work for a lot of people in our niche here.
Yeah, and I got a note from Doug Hamp, who was part of that film, and he wrote Corrupting the Image 2, which is his book, his follow-up to Corrupting the Image. So I'll probably be interviewing him pretty soon here. I think he was just on with A View from the Bunker with Derek Gilbert, so we'll get in contact with him. Or actually, he reached out a few days ago, and I took me a few days to get back to him. But yeah, so look for that as well. So thank you for that, Jimmy and Holly. We appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the show and being producers of the podcast. Next up, we have Vladimir.
Oh, producer Vladimir coming in as our KGB handler.
Yes, so much so that he gave us 2 producerships, but I don't know the significance of either one.
Well, one of them, I think it sounds important. Let's see, 1991.
The year he was born, maybe?
Was that the Berlin Wall?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
I think that was 92, maybe? I don't know. I was so young.
Let me take a look. Might have been in the 80s. Yeah, 89.
Oh, of course. It was 89. Yeah. Huh. I don't know. The other one came through as $3.25. Again, I'm not sure what the thing is, but they seemed like important numbers. And for those who don't know, we usually don't read amounts unless it has some significance. Maybe these are KGB codes.
That's what I was going to say. We just helped Vladimir send out the signal to all of his KGB buddies over the internet.
Oh gosh,
we're being used. We're being handled.
Yeah, if only the KGB still existed.
If only. If only. All right. So thank you for that, Vladimir. Appreciate the producership. Next up, we have James H. Oop, wrong one. James H. Sorry.
Thank you very much, producer James H.
And he came in with a note. I wasn't sure how to leave a message with my donation today, but you figured it out. However, Canada loves you guys. Well, at least I do. And I'm Canardian. Yeah. That's a Canarian and a Canadian. They're Canardians.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah. Praise Yahweh. Yahweh. So thank you for that, producer James H. And we got a couple more here. One from producer Beast System Revealed.
Ooh.
Oh, I keep hitting the wrong button. There we go. There's the gong. Coming in with Illuminati handling $33. And of course, this is the one behind avoidthemark.com. Go check out avoidthemark.com.
Hey, you got to avoid it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. You got the Revelation Free Radio. Looks like there's a music video. There's a whole bunch of blog posts. So yeah, doing the work over there at avoidthemark.com.
You know, Gons, I'm looking over here in the chat, and Jared over on YouTube says, "Don't worry, guys. Trust Fund Baby will come through." All right, we're keeping an eye out for this trust fund baby. You know, really, it only takes one trust fund baby to change the life of a podcaster forever. So if you're out there and you're a trust fund baby, come on, let's make this happen.
Yeah. It kind of, I mean, I will say it kind of depends on how that comes into view too. Like, how did that money get passed down? You know, was it some KGB stuff, KGB work?
You know, that money still spends
in a trust, or it's fungible. $1's a dollar.
Yeah, maybe a Bitcoin trust fund baby. Who knows?
Oh yeah. Well, that would be it's a young baby.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, thank you, Beast System Revealed. Go check out avoidthemark.com, folks. If you're wondering, if you need more content, he's doing good work over there. So thank you for that. And last up for the PayPal, we have Malik, producer Malik.
Thank you very much, producer Malik.
And
very consistent.
No note, I don't think, from producer Malik. And that'll do it for the producers on PayPal. Thank you to everyone who supports the show in that manner. It's really, really quite special. I don't think people understand how awesome that is, that you guys continue to support the platform and support and be producers, truly, to produce a show in that way. It's your show.
Sometimes people get annoyed because they think it's like just some sort of cute thing.
Yeah.
It's not just some cute thing. It's not a gimmick. It's faux real.
It's faux real.
That's how the world works. If you pay to have a piece of media produced, you are a producer.
I'm going to throw this out there for anybody that wants to pick it up and make it cool. The other day I was talking to my wife, and I was trying to tell her, like, hey, maybe we were driving to to see the in-laws, and I saw Home Depot, and I was trying to be all hip, and I was like, oh, hey, there's a hoodie over here, so in case we need to grab it, because we brought some stuff for the the in-laws, and I was like, hey, there's a hoodie. We need to grab some stuff. We can just run to the hoodie. And she's like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
And I'm like, Home Depot, hoodie. That's how all the kids are saying it. And she's like, that's not how kids talk.
I don't think kids are saying that.
Well, they should. They should talk about hoodie, and then I'll go to hoodie, pick up some tools. You can go to Holo and pick up some hobby crafts, Hobby Lobby, Holo.
Oh, yeah.
And
You're
nobody,
very hip, Gons.
Nobody wanted to entertain. I felt lonely.
There comes a time in life where you got to stop abbreviating things.
I felt lonely and old. I was like, come on, isn't that how kids talk? Don't they abbreviate things?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. Yeah. But now people will. Now that I threw it out there, people will start calling it hoodie and holo. Okay. Moving on here.
Who's next? What's next?
It's fun to get old. Just want to thank our knights and dames. You can go to canarycryradio.com/knighthood to learn all about that. You can go to canarycryradio.com/crypto to learn about how you can support the show with crypto and get a short educational piece on, why crypto is important in the times, not just eschatologically. There's some dangers, of course, there, but also in terms of how the whole economic system is being torn down. And do want to thank Jade Bouncerson and producer Christine for the timestamps. And did get a note from producer Jade Bouncerson. And
is this a readable on the air note, or are we
kind
giving
of
a gist?
not the whole thing? I just wanted to mention that producer Jade Bouncerson is going to slowly move away from the timestamps, or at least try to
the main
help
thing
facilitate.
Is we need to get Jade Bouncerson a team. We need more people to get involved with the timestamps.
Right. And we need somebody, basically what we need, based on podcasting 2.0 standards and the way we publish the show, the MP3 file, the RSS feed, we kind of need somebody to do timestamps during the live show, which the video stream is, there's a couple minutes of discrepancy between that and the actual audio, MP3 file that goes up as an RSS feed. Because of the fact that we have the intro and outro, or mainly the intro.
Well, I think if somebody here's the main thing: if there's people out there who like to catch the live show, if you are interested in becoming a producer, get some producer credits, baby, and you're watching the show anyways, we'd like to get a group of people together. And so far, Jade is doing a great job of sort of facilitating this, of, maybe a handful of producers who want to work together to get the timestamps, because once we make the full switch to podcasting 2.0, where there's going to be chapters, baby. Chapters within the podcast app, which is going to be very cool and also very important. So this is sort of a call out for any, elite commandos out there who catch the live streams, who want to get involved in helping us take that step into podcasting 2.0. And if you want to do that, please begin this journey by sending an email to jadebouncerson@gmail.com. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead and do that. I would really like to get a little squad together, because it's very useful. First of all, for those even on the YouTube, to be able to jump around and revisit different segments of the show through the timestamps, but also that's going to be available someday soon for the podcast listeners, and we need some producers to help out with that.
Yeah, and I've been trying to run the MP3 file with because Jade Bouncerson has been giving us the timestamps as early as possible, and so I've been running it through there's a little app where you can create chapters, and for some reason it's not working yet. I don't know if there's encryption issues. I don't know. We'll figure it out later, but you can also there's an app called Hypercatcher, which is a podcast player. And you can submit chapters there too, but that's more of a listener after the fact type of thing.
We're getting into a little bit of TMI here.
Yeah. You underestimate the intelligence of our producers and listeners.
Well,
Basil.
it's just because we're not quite there yet.
Yeah,
but
okay.
Either way, we've already got people asking for the email one more time. So that's Jade Bouncerson, JADEBOUNCERSON @gmail.com. Get involved. Jade will catch you up with the system.
Cool. So thank you for the timestamps. We appreciate it. Moving on, you can support the show with not just your treasures and your time, as Jade Bouncerson and producer Christine have done with the timestamps, but also with your talent. And you can send us jingles, ISOs, and send us your artwork. The first one, we actually did receive an ISO from producer Isaac. That's the tinfoil hat man, and it's a good one.
Are you going to believe what you see or what I tell you?
That's good. Yeah.
Very keen.
Coming straight from the White House.
Yeah. So thank you for that, producer Isaac. We can use that in certain situations. It's a good ISO to have on hand. And then we have the artwork.
One art, please.
We're going to start with producer Ali for today's artwork. This first one, let me resize it for the people watching. This is a tennis player. And this is from the NFT story that we reported on last episode. And the note here, looks like the tennis player who sold 6-inch by 3-inch of space on her right arm has added some advertising art to her left arm as well. She's now shilling for Canary Cry and Gazzle. Everybody loves tennis. And and this is the tennis player. I forget her name. Some tennis player from
I forget too. The PR stunt has not worked as well as they'd hope, but yeah, they've got a nice first of all, I'm now realizing how valuable that area is advertising wise on a tennis player, because every time they serve, they're flashing their bicep there, and there we go, we got the Canary Cry radio logo. Everybody will know we'll be huge in the tennis scene.
Yeah, and if you miss the story, it was basically about a tennis player who was selling a piece of her arm as an NFT, a non-fungible token, and so whoever bids the highest has ownership of that part of her arm, and they can use it for advertisements or whatever they wanted to do. Yeah, speaking of which, in that regard, the forehead is definitely one of the most
prime piece of real estate.
Prime real estate when it comes to advertising.
Maybe, but tennis players, they wear those sweatbands around their head.
Yeah, well, tennis for sure.
Blocked.
It's arms or like a leg or something. Yeah, maybe the sport of diving or swimming. Swimming they wear those body things now, but diving, prime real estate all over.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Gaslin Bonds.
Yes, producer Ali, thank you for that. Next up, we have one from producer Mike B. And I'm always trying to figure out exactly. I try not to read too much into it.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on here, but we'll describe it and maybe somebody will understand. Thank you very much, producer Mike B. This is a Fox News alert. We've got the Fox News chyron down there at the bottom with the white hog logo. And it is a picture in the background of some people running away. They're in the middle of a street running away. There's a cop also running away. And they are running from what looks to be two Orthodox priests shooting fire out of their hands. What?
Rabbis?
Rabbis, maybe?
I don't know.
Yeah. Could be rabbis. Two witnesses. Somebody says the two witnesses. The two witnesses. Okay. This makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm. And on the bottom right, there's a logo for the white hog.
Yes. Well, because it's Fox News, you know.
Right. So, yeah, very good. Again, once again, producer Mike B coming in with the interesting pieces of art every time here. Next, we have the Hungry Hungarian. It's Mr. Jag with the blue ink style art. And this is the Spirit Frogs, Revelation 16:13. Yeah, go ahead and describe what's going on with this one.
Yeah, this is great. I understand the Spirit Frogs now. If you missed it, I believe it was last episode or the episode before. Gons was just entirely offended that I didn't know what he was talking about when he said Spirit Frogs. And this is referring to the dragon. And we've got a great sketch of the dragon here in the blue pen. Very spooky with another dragon head. A few dragon heads there, and coming out of the mouth of the dragon are little ghost frogs. Are you going to read this scripture for context?
Yeah, I'll read it. Give me a moment to pull it up.
And one of the frogs is, you know, your favorite Kermit the Frog.
What if that is the way the prophecy is fulfilled?
No,
all right, I'm going to read.
Surprise me at this point.
So Revelation 13:16 is the mark of the beast. Hold on, it's Revelation 16:13. I'm sorry, did it backwards there. Revelation 16:13, and I saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the phone call. Coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits like frogs. Yes, and what if that prophecy is fulfilled and one of them is Kermit the Frog?
Kermit
the Frog here.
Unclean spirit, Miss Piggy.
White hog.
That's all I got.
Lot going on there. So yeah, they're very good. Again, Mr. Jag, our Hungry Hungarian, coming in with the Spirit Frogs.
Thank you very much.
And last piece of art here before we get back to the show is from Quantum Solace. It's another cartoon style piece with Captain America. It's got me and my ninja getup on a skateboard and the Hulk. And in the background, there's some speech bubbles. You want to read it or you want me to read it?
I'll read it. I must say, though, with these types of things, less is more when it comes to the text. There's quite a story going on here, a lot of text. I'm going to make my way through it, but just a tip for any comic book writers out there. You know, you got to show more, say less. Here we go. So this is Captain America making a plan, as he does in the Marvel movies. He's known as the plan-making guy. And he's saying here, okay, here's the plan, Hulk. Go for the henchmen. I'll come in and take them down. Once down, Gons can come in and do a 180 burial kickflip over him. Thor will be filming. If Gons successfully lands it, we'll post the video on TikTok, where he'll be memed on for about 2 weeks. The humiliation he will suffer will be worse than death. Afterwards, he will either turn to Jesus for salvation or come up with an intense, convoluted revenge plan against us. Gons, the whole world rides on you landing this. And of course, there's Samurai Gons there in his kimono riding a skateboard. Now the Hulk is coming up behind you and says, Hulk saw Gons practice before battle. He did not have a good skate session. Hulk say the chance he lands, it is 30 to 40%, plus kimono is rental. So if Gons fail in Biff, no deposit refund, no pressure. Then there's Gons. Samurai Gons here on the skateboard says, "Stop talking, you guys are not helping, but okay, here I go. Also, I have a friend who was scratched by a cat recently, and it turns out the cat may be radioactive, so he wanted me to ask if we have tryouts or something. Okay, we'll talk about it later, I guess. Will Gons land this somewhat difficult trick without getting his kimono dirty? And who is this friend with a possible radioactive cat scratch? Find out next time. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Cat scratch." I added that last part for flavor.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you very much, producer.
Producer Quantum Solace.
Quantum Solace. Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, so there you go. That's our producers for this show. I think it looks like somebody tried to get in. Sorry,
at the last
looking at the
moment.
chat. Yeah, we might have to wait for the next episode for cred. But
for cred, yes, folks, you got to get in before the producer segment to get in here, because we can't just be sitting here refreshing the email.
Yeah, I know.
But we'll get you next time. We'll be back on Wednesday. Okay, and of course, let's see. Do we have anybody else to thank? We thanked everybody, I think.
I think we thanked everybody. I think that was it.
Okay, good. Gons, I have a slight emergency.
Okay.
I need to leave you. To do this Chinese news.
All right.
And I will be back in a moment.
Okay.
Okay.
Wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Let's start off with a little bit of Chinese news here.
Welcome to Chinese News.
This was sent in by a producer. I forget who it was here. Let me try to find it if I can. Oh, producer Subtle Kane sent this one in from Radio Free Asia, rfa.org. Chinese Christians held in secretive brainwashing camps. Sources. Doesn't sound good. Authorities in China are detaining Christians in secretive mobile transformation facilities to make them renounce their faith, RFA has learned. A member of a Christian house church in the southwestern province of Sichuan, who asked to be identified by a pseudonym Li Yuisi, said he was held in a facility run by the ruling Chinese Communist Party, CCP's, United Front Work Department, working in tandem with the state security police for 10 months after a raid of his church in 2018. Quote, "It was a mobile facility that could just set up in some basement somewhere," Lee said. Quote, "It was staffed by people from several different government departments." The quote continues, "It had its own CCP political and legal affairs committee working groups, and they mainly target Christians who are members of house churches," he said. The Chinese Communist Party, which embraces atheism, exercises tight controls over any form of religious practice among its citizens. State security police and religious affairs bureau officials frequently raid unofficial, quote, house churches that aren't members of the CCP-backed Three Self-Patriotic Association, although member churches have also been targeted at times. The CCP under Xi Jinping regards Christianity as a dangerous foreign import, with party documents warning against the, quote, infiltration of Western hostile forces in the form of religion. Lee said he was held in a windowless room for nearly 10 months, during which time he was beaten, verbally abused, and, quote, mentally tortured by staff, eventually resorting to self-harm by throwing himself against a wall. His account is chilling. His account is chillingly similar to those of former inmates of, quote, transformation camps in the northwestern region in Xinjiang. Quote, "They are really underhand methods," Lee said. Quote, "They threaten, insult, and intimidate you. They were United Front officials, men, women, sometimes unidentified, usually in plain clothes. The police turn a blind eye to this," he said. Quote, "You have to accept the statement they prepare for you," he said. If you refuse, you will be seen as having a bad attitude, and they will keep you in detention and keep on beating you. Basement brainwashing sessions. Lee said most of his fellow inmates were also people who had been released on bail during criminal detention for taking part in church-related activities. Most hadn't done anything that could trigger any criminal prosecution, so police sent them to the, quote, transformation facilities instead, Lee said. Quote, "They were using brainwashing methods on those of us who were on bail from detention center," he said. "It was in a secret location in a basement. There were 2 plainclothes officers in my room, and a uniformed officer was in another room," Lee said. There were no windows, no ventilation, and no time allowed outside, he said. I was given just 2 meals a day, which were brought to the room by a designated person. Inmates who refused to admit their mistake were held in solitary confinement for prolonged periods. Quote, there's no time limit for the brainwashing process, he said. I don't know the longest time anyone has been held there, but I was detained for 8 or 9 months. You can't see the sun, so you lose all concept of time. He said suicidal ideations and self-harm was commonplace. Quote, I couldn't sleep. After you've been there a week, death starts to look better than staying there, Lee said. I bashed myself against the wall to self-harm. One time in there, I was groggy and was trying to open my eyes, but I couldn't, he said. 4 or 5 of them grabbed me by the arms and legs and pinned me to the ground, and they just injected me with some drug and brought me back to consciousness. Haunted by experience, Lee said he was in very poor health on his release, with edema all over his body and a weight gain of 10 kilograms. Interesting weight gain, huh? He remains haunted by the experience to this day, he told RFA. Another Christian who asked to remain anonymous told RFA that similar facilities are being used across China, not just for Protestants, but also for members of the underground Catholic Church and of the banned Falun Gong spiritual movement, a target of authorities since 1999. A lawyer surnamed Zhang from the northern province of Hebei said he had represented a number of former detainees who were Catholics. Quote, I was asked to go to Baoding by underground Catholics in 2013, Zhang said. They brainwashed. These brainwashing places were similar to the ones used on the Falun Gong. I saw several of their priests at that time, and they told me what was happening there in Baoding. After the religious affairs officials had arrested the bishop and priests, they didn't pursue criminal charges. They just disappeared them, sometimes for 5, 6, or even 10 years at a stretch. Some were sent back home after 5 or 6 years, and that was how people learned about the brainwashing centers from their accounts, Zhang said. Zhang said he suspects the transformation facilities have been running for a long time around China, and that the operations in Baoding were likely just the tip of the iceberg. According to a report in the overseas magazine Bitter Winter in November 2020, which interviewed a former brainwashing victim, methods used in the centers vary from beating to torture, including cold showers in sub-zero temperatures, and forcing inmates to carry large buckets of water around their necks. China is home to an estimated 68 million Protestants, of whom 23 million worship in state-affiliated churches under the aegis of the Three Self-Patriotic Association, and some 9 million Catholics, the majority of whom are in state-sponsored organizations. So a pretty troubling story there from Radio Free Asia. And, we've known about some of these types of camps in China, or at least had rumors about them. And I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, there's the possibility of these things being a sort of propaganda piece, moving in the other direction, like an anti-Chinese propaganda, which I'm sure does exist as well. But more than likely, this stuff is true and is being done out there. And if you look at scriptures, it talks about the dragon and, conquering of the saints and stuff like that. And if you look at the early Christians, in the New Testament, they were all Paul spent most of his time in prison. So this is nothing new. And it just proves to me that a lot of the scriptures, especially if you're talking about the spirit of Antichrist being out there, that it's true. And the CCP is just one example throughout history that this is happening. And this is another reason why, and I hate to make this tangent per se, I don't want to upset anybody that's out there listening right now who may hold to a kind of pre-trib type of situation. But, I hear a lot of pre-tribbers say like, oh, the church will never see the persecution. We'll never see the Antichrist and all this stuff. We're going to be out of here. And I always think about how, okay, but what about all the persecution that have happened to our brothers and sisters in Christ throughout all the years since over the last 2,000 years, basically? And, if it's the Antichrist spirit there, okay, maybe we'll be out of here, depending on your translation or understanding of the text, before the man of sin appears, although 2 Thessalonians 2 would argue that point. before, the Antichrist man of sin comes out and starts conquering the saints, as it says in Revelation 13. But more than likely, I think we're being told or asked to endure and stuff like that. It just seems like this type of thing is something that mentally we need to prepare, especially in the West, while we think that we're just, protected by our freedoms. We know the influence the CCP has had in Western society. I don't think they're going to succeed any more than they already have, at least in the short term. Long term, who knows? But, we just have to keep in mind that we have fellow brethren out there, and even Catholics that might disagree with their religion or spiritual worldview or their denomination, and even, the Muslims out there, the Uyghurs that are being tortured and stuff. But anytime there are violations, you can rest assured that it's the Antichrist spirit at work. And anytime there's oppression like this, it just, again, it proves to me that the Antichrist spirit is out there, has been out there, and is doing things. There's nothing new under the sun. There's no new tactic or new method here, other than perhaps moving into the future, people like this being used for some kind of brain-machine interfacing technology experiments, or some other type of more horrific experiments that have been echoed in the hidden works of the MK Ultra and the rest. But this is not surprising, and just take it with a grain of salt in terms of the accuracy of this particular report. But I would imagine that this is true for the most part, and that these camps exist in China. And so, pray for those in China, especially the fellow brethren out there. And, there's not much else to say about that. Basil, are you back? I kind of hear you moving around over there.
I'm back. I'm wiggling around.
Wiggling around. Are you okay? Did you throw up?
Emergency diverted.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah. Diverted, not averted.
Okay.
Diverted.
Diverted. Okay. So you took action.
Action was taken.
All right, good.
So what are we doing now? Checking in on the Four Horsemen?
Let's do it.
The Four Horsemen of the Technocalypse. Anytime you see the Four Horsemen, it's something special.
We're going to cover two of the Four Horsemen of the Technocalypse. This first one is Mark Zuckerberg, and I got a new jingle for the Zuck.
Who should we tickle next?
I am not a lizard.
It's pretty deep cut there.
Well, if Mark Zuckerberg asks who should be tickled next, that's scary. And also, he's denying that he's a lizard. So, you want me to play it one more time just for old Snake?
Who should we tickle next?
I am not a lizard.
You heard it here first, folks.
Only on this show where you get
right from the lizard's mouth himself.
Yep. And this is businessinsider.in, India. Mark Zuckerberg's phone number appeared among the leaked data of Facebook users, according to a researcher.
Ooh. And this is
an after effect of the story here from businessinsider.com. 533 million Facebook users' phone numbers and personal data have been leaked online.
Oh, wow. It's just a matter of time. I'm surprised it took this long, honestly.
Well, apparently this was part of the hack that happened in 2019, so there isn't necessarily new stuff, although there might be more stuff. But yeah, Mark Zuckerberg, part of that hack, leak his phone number. You can call him.
Yeah, should we give him a call?
Mark, what meats are you cooking today, buddy?
Ask him who should get tickled next.
Yeah. It says here the cell phone number of Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg is among the personal information leaked online in a low-level hacking forum, according to a researcher. Multiple outlets reported the claim about Zuckerberg's leaked personal information. Data including his name, location, marriage details, birth date, and Facebook user ID was exposed, according to The Sun. Real solid source. Insiders Aaron Holmes had previously reported on the leak, which involved the personal information of more than 500 million Facebook users being posted in the forum. Cyber researcher Dave Walker said Zuckerberg, as well as Facebook co-founder Chris Hughes and Dustin Moskowitz, were among the 533 million users. who had personal data posted on the forum. Quote, regarding the hashtag Facebook leak of the 533 million people in the leak, the irony is that Mark Zuckerberg is regrettably included in the leak as well.
Did they give his phone number in this article?
I don't think so. It was a little harder to find because you got to go into that forum, and who knows? I'm sure he's changed all that information by now.
Yeah, I
he
mean,
used his little lizard
some
fingers.
Lucky duck who got on the forum early.
Yeah,
probably got a call or two in.
Can you tickle me?
Oh, jeez.
So there you go. I mean, that's Facebook. Why are we still on Facebook? What are we doing?
I don't know. No, we are pretty much. Here's the thing with Facebook and us. We still have people who join the Canary Cry community on Facebook.
Yeah, I guess
it's worth whatever it's worth. I mean, people being able to connect to other Canarians is good. But as far as our posting and like trying to share the streams and get the episodes out there, they've pretty much fully locked us down. Yeah. I mean, back in the day, we used to get hundreds of shares and things like that. Now it's like, I think 2 people see it when I post something.
Yeah. It's okay.
So I don't know. I don't know why we're there. Just for the community, I guess.
Yeah.
The Canary Cry community.
Well, moving on here, the other horseman that we'd like to report on is your favorite, Mr. Elon Musk.
Oh, some people think I'm an alien. My favorite alien reptilian.
Some people think I'm an alien. Some people think I'm an alien.
Okay. Did you see his tweet about King Kong versus Godzilla?
I only know about it because you mentioned it right before the show started, but
so we've gotten a lot of messages saying we must watch this movie, and I almost tried to watch it this morning, but I had more important things to do. But
where is it on? What platform is it?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know. I think you have to rent it at this point. But Elon tweeted sometime recently, and he said that Kong versus Godzilla was a love letter to conspiracy theorists. And I've heard some details. Some people have sent some details to us. And I guess a podcaster plays a main role in the thing.
Yeah.
So, they're finally catching up. I feel very seen and validated in my strange choices.
Let me read Elon's full tweet. He's got 2 of them here. The first one, Godzilla versus Kong is so much wow. Most insane movie I've ever seen. Love letter to conspiracy theorists, and yet heartwarming in the end. And then another tweet that went even more viral. The Earth is not flat. It's a hollow globe, and Donkey King lives there.
Oh, some hollow Earth theory. Okay.
Donkey King?
Yeah, he's just being funny. Elon, he's always trying to get the Gen Zs all riled up.
Maybe I can get Elon to start using Hody and Holo.
That's pretty much what it would take for those to catch on, Gons. But here's a story from Esquire.com. Elon Musk could help aliens notice humans, study says. Oh, there's a study.
Oh, yeah.
Elon Musk has a grand goal for SpaceX's Starlink, use an eventual 40,000 satellites to blanket the entire planet in internet coverage, far surpassing any existing satellite internet service. But there may be more to the mission. In a new study, one scientist suggests Musk's satellite network may also make Earth a major target of alien interest. Target, probably not the best word to use there. Starlink's 40,000 satellites in orbit, 1,000 of which astronomers have already criticized for obstructing the night sky, will be enough to register as a megastructure that will eventually appear on some faraway civilization's radar, writes Zaza Osmanov, a professor of astrophysics at the Free University of Tbilisi in Georgia, in a new paper published to the preprint server Archive.
Archive.
ARXIV. Yeah, archive is probably the cool way to say it. Osmanov studied how the electrical signature of Starlink will show up via signals to large interferometers in distant alien civilizations. Since Earth's advanced interferometers would be able to detect this activity from other planets, Osmanov writes, anyone else with the same technology could do the same back to us. Quote, we consider the possible observational characteristics of a planetary megastructure partially or completely covering an Earth-like planet located in the habitable zone. Osmanov explains, that means finding the key inflection point at which the Starlink satellite network would become detectable to a faraway observer. And the article goes on, but I think we get the point. Elon is going to attract the aliens.
Well, again, he's quoted as saying,
some people think I'm an alien.
Yeah, he also said if there were aliens, I would know about it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And where are the aliens? I think that was the other one where he said, where are the aliens? Well,
where are they, Elon?
He's going to help us find him, I guess.
Speaking of aliens.
Oh, yes. Yeah, sorry. That was you teed that up for me.
Aliens.
Yeah, this is finance.yahoo.com. Always interesting.
Some alien financial news.
It's really starting to blend into this weird world.
Someday when we have full contact with an alien civilization, we'll be able to trade on the alien stock market.
You just triggered so many people.
What if, do you think the aliens will like Bitcoin?
I think
the price of Bitcoin would do if the aliens came down?
According to Alex Jones, the aliens made Bitcoin. So.
Oh, well, Alex Jones would know.
Yeah. Raelians urge UN member states ambassadors to support the, quote, Embassy for Extraterrestrials project. And this was published on April 1st. It's not an April Fool's joke here. On ET Embassy Day. What?
Continue.
Okay. On ET Embassy Day each year, slated to take place on the first Saturday of April, Raelians worldwide will once again intensify their awareness campaign and invite the public to join and contribute to this unique endeavor sponsored by the International Raelian Movement. And if you've been with us for a while, we've reported on the Raelians. They're very intense about the existence of aliens, and they have their own sort of worldview of how it's going to happen.
It's a cult.
The Raelians, it is a cult. Yes, and
their
logo is a Jewish star with a swastika inside, just like
the aliens would want.
Yes, and they list Buddha, Jesus of Nazareth, and Muhammad, with Rael himself being the final prophet there. So they're it's the whole one world religion type of thing. Quote, our goal is to have the UN adopt an addendum to the 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations entitled Optional Protocol Concerning Embassies for Extraterrestrials, explained Daniel Turcotti, Raelian guide and head of the International Raelian Movement Embassy Project. Quote, the UN Secretary General's office explained that the Secretary General will open a debate on the issue only if asked by a sufficient number of UN member states ambassadors, added Turcotti. Turcotti also explained that Raelians are launching an international awareness campaign to motivate citizens of all countries to send an e-letter to their respective UN ambassadors, requesting that they present the case for the, quote, optional protocol concerning embassies for extraterrestrials to the UN General Assembly. The hope is to be compelling enough for them to hold an international diplomatic conference to discuss that optional protocol drafted and submitted by Raelians. Again, this sounds ridiculous, right? I mean, it just sounds completely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
They take this very seriously.
They do,
guys.
But here's the thing, though. Okay, here's what I'm talking about. I mentioned earlier about basically the intelligence having to reveal to the Senate about what they know about UFOs and whatnot, and I'm sure some of that information is going to go public. Because it's clear that they've been doing a slow disclosure for a while of like, hey, we know about the UFOs and, unidentified aerial phenomenon or whatever. We're not sure what they are, but we're very much aware of them. And when government and when the Senate gets insider info on that guy John Ratcliffe came out a couple weeks ago and said like, oh man, there's a lot of stuff here. It's going to be crazy when they release it. And again, who knows if it will be or won't be. The point is, it's going to... The government officially stating that something is out there and we know about the technology that could be... They're not going to say like, oh, it's aliens. But it's groups like this that will gain more attention, more traction, and whether the Raelians themselves will actually pull off this embassy for extraterrestrials or not, I think it's going to disrupt a lot of what we have known all our lives as governance and politics. I think it's going to really start to change things. And because think about how wild it's been the last decade. We went from Bush Jr. and 9/11 was a thing, but then Obama breaking barriers, black president, all this stuff, to Trump, a crazy billionaire eccentric guy becomes president, and then the whole conspiracy stuff goes mainstream. I mean, the only thing, and we talked about it last year with the coronavirus and, the whole deal. The only thing left is alien disclosure, Right. And I just feel like whatever they're planning with the release of that information, because otherwise, like, what's the point? And the other thing, too, you got to think about the government, especially intelligence, coming out with information about what they know or whatever. That's going to save a lot of money. Because they've spent a lot of money covering up the fact that they know stuff, right?
Yeah.
So now they'll be able to be more open about it, and I really think, and it's not going to happen right away, but I really think it's going to disrupt a lot of governance, a lot of the public education system, and that's just a hunch I get, but it may not happen right all at once, but that's the kind of thing that I think that this story represents or is reflecting.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's the only option for stuff like this. I see some people in the chat trying to make a big point about how this came out on April 1st.
I know.
We actually reported, I don't know if you remember this, Gons, it was a few years ago on News Talk, back when it was a half-hour show, where they designed and broke ground on the...
it was like
on their embassy.
Yeah.
They actually started building their embassy. So no, this is not an April Fool's joke. They're
legit.
The Raelians have been around since like the 70s, I want to say.
Yeah.
So they're just hitting their stride, baby. They broke ground on the embassy, the Earth Embassy. And and once this disclosure happens, well, we'll see what actually comes out of it. But this is the moment they've been waiting for.
I mean, their Wikipedia page under beliefs, they have the Elohim on Earth, the Age of Apocalypse, and the Elohim's return, cloning and survival after death, morality, ethics, gender roles, religious symbols, and guess where their headquarters are at?
Phoenix, Arizona?
Geneva, Switzerland.
Oh, yeah, right. I knew that.
Right where
they're they've got some pretty big followers in the southwest of the U.S.
Yeah, but that's
New
where
Mexico.
I know, but Geneva, Switzerland is where Cern is, which is my segue to the next story here.
Okay. Here's a little Cern update for everybody coming from techexplorist.com. The headline, Cern scientists demonstrated laser cooling of anti-hydrogen atoms for the first time. What does that mean? I have no idea. Let's learn together. Almost 4 decades ago, a technique called laser cooling was demonstrated, which revolutionized atomic physics over the following decades. Up until now, the method has been used widely in many fields, including studies on degenerate quantum gases, quantum information, atomic clocks, and tests of fundamental physics. However, this technique has not yet been applied to antimatter. In a new study, scientists demonstrated laser cooling of antihydrogen. For the first time, the groundbreaking feat produces colder antimatter than ever before and enables an entirely new class of experiments, enabling scientists to learn more about antimatter in the future. The study was conducted by Swansea University physicists as leading members of the Alpha collaboration at Cern. In their experiments, scientists reported that when the atoms scatter light from ultraviolet laser beam, the temperature of antihydrogen atoms trapped inside a magnetic bottle dropped gradually. It also decelerates the atoms and reduces the space they occupy in the bottle. Both vital aspects of future, more detailed studies of antimatter properties. Along with decreased energy of antihydrogen atoms, there was also a reduction in the range of wavelengths that the cold atoms can absorb or emit light on. This reduced motion hence prompts narrowed spectral line. According to scientists, this latter effect will enable a more precise determination of the spectrum, which could reveal the antihydrogen's atoms' internal structure. Swansea University's Professor Neil Madsen, responsible for the experimental run, said, quote, "Since there is no antihydrogen around, we have to make it in the lab at Cern. It's a remarkable feat that we can now also laser cool antihydrogen and makes an exact spectroscopic measurement, all in less than a single day. Only 2 years ago, the spectroscopy alone would take 10 weeks. Our goal is to investigate if our antihydrogen properties match those of ordinary hydrogen, as expected by symmetry. A difference, however small, could help explain some of the deep questions surrounding antimatter." Professor Stefan Eriksson, who is responsible for the spectroscopy lasers involved in the study, said, quote, "This spectacular result takes antihydrogen research to the next level, as the improved precision that laser cooling brings puts us in contention with experiments on normal matter. This is a tall order, since the spectrum of hydrogen we compare with has been measured with a staggering precision of 15 digits. Whoa, we are already upgrading our experiment to meet the challenge! Exclamation point. Wow, these guys really love antihydrogen, huh? Can't get enough of this stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not even 100% sure what it all means, but it's interesting how they're, using the technology that's available to them. Things are speeding up. And
yeah, I mean, even the concept of antimatter is very mysterious to sort of the average normie. But I did not even know that they had anti-specific elements. I thought antimatter was just antimatter, but now there's antihydrogen. I wonder what other anti-elements exist.
If matter is what makes up this universe, then presumably there is anti-everything, right? There's like anti any kind of matter.
What we are led to believe.
Yeah, and so I guess anti-hydrogen is their first tapping into. And to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but antimatter itself is more of a mathematical construct, correct? Like mathematically, it has to exist to make the equations work.
Yeah, it used to be more mathematical. In recent years, especially with CERN, they have been able to sort of pinpoint and identify antimatter and experiment with it in certain ways. Again, it's very complicated, but yeah, the antimatter concept just keeps becoming more real as well, especially CERN continues its work.
Well, it starts with antihydrogen and it ends with the Antichrist.
Oh, hey-o.
Hey-o. All right. Anything else you want to ramble about from that one?
No.
Okay.
Boy, it's really a productive segment, man.
Last story from well, from Netflix.
This girl must be practicing Richcraft.
Richcraft. This is SoMagNews.com. What does SoMag stand for? So Magazine?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like something cool and hip.
Yeah, kind of like Hody.
No, it's never going to be a thing, Gons.
Holo. Where do you get all your art supplies? I go to Holo. Baker Street Baker Street irregularities. What is the Dawn Order? Episode 3 of The Irregulars of Baker Street, a Netflix series set in the universe of Sherlock Holmes, introduces viewers to the Golden Dawn, a royal secret society that investigates paranormal activity and the occult. The series, set in Victorian England, centers on a group of orphan teenagers hired to assist Sherlock and Dr. Watson in their criminal investigations.
Course. Why can none of these witches ever have parents, man? It's always orphans.
Yeah, that's how they get into it, man. You need to fill the void.
Okay.
Teenagers soon realize that these crimes involve... when they begin to examine their first case, teenagers soon realize that these crimes involve paranormal phenomena and black magic. In the second episode, Spike discovers a letter from the Golden Dawn addressed to Watson. Subsequently, the team of teenage investigators face the secret society head-on after their leader was murdered. The society depicted in The Irregulars of Baker Street is based on the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn of real life. Commonly called thus, the order was founded by 3 Freemasons in 1887. They studied a collection of known documents, such as encrypted manuscripts that supposedly included spells to control the 4 elements, as well as lessons in alchemy, astronomy, and tarot, just like those described in the series. Period, space, period, because SoMag News is really on top of it. At the end of the 9th century, the Golden Dawn had more than 100 members. Although the original order no longer exists today, many of the symbols and rituals of modern occultism derive from it, such as those practiced by followers of Wicca. As in the production of Streaming, the list of members of the secret society included, in fact, several celebrities from the Victorian era, such as British actress Florence Farr and Irish poet William Butler Yeats.
Yeats!
So there you go. Wasn't Crowley initially Golden Dawn, and then he broke off into his own thing with... I'm not mistaken. I could be off on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go back and consult the manuscripts on that one.
Because he has... let's see here. I'm trying to find the story of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Aleister Crowley, yeah, Crowley.
Yeah, okay.
He was part of that.
That's when he broke
sure.
off and made the OTO.
Yeah.
In Telema.
Ordo Temple Orientis. Yeah, so, of course, no surprises here. A Netflix show introducing all the young kids, especially those orphans, really identifying with the people that, I don't know, hate their parents or don't have parents, I guess, and getting them indoctrinated into the order.
Yeah, I mean, there would be some occult concepts that would sort of require trauma for introduction into a thing like that. So that makes sense.
Yeah, the members of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, quote, were primarily interested in magical philosophy and traditional ritual practice for the advancement of the individual spirit, according to Branch, which is a, let's see, what is Branch?
It's like Groot.
branchcollective.org. Okay. It's a history thing.
Yeah.
There you go. Propaganda.
There we go. Wonderful. Well, I think we did it. I think we did a show.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. And we are just barely under 3 hours, Gons.
Yeah, we did it.
Wow. We did it.
It feels like a show that went 3.5 hours.
Thanks for listening, folks, to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. We'll be back on Wednesday. That's Wednesday, April 7th. And so make sure to put it on your calendar, turn on notifications. And if you haven't done it yet, folks, please go ahead, hit that like button, share, and subscribe.
Oh, yeah. Do that for sure as I stall.
Come on, man.
Filibuster.
Like, subscribe, bell button, all. Like, subscribe, bell button, all.
That's right. So we'll see you back here on Wednesday the 7th, and we will need some more producers for that show, folks. I want to thank today's producers of episode 320. Oh, wow. We're coming up on episode 322 on
this Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay. So there you go. Hey, producers, do we even want to bother doing a special 322 thing? I feel like that's...
What's the opposite of skull and bones? Like, how can we reverse that whole thing?
Head and arms.
Head and arms donation for Canary Cry. Producers of the head and arms.
Yeah, either that or butt and skin.
Oh gosh, let's not go there.
I'm just saying, you asked.
Hiney and foot. Okay, we'll think of something.
All right, folks. Well, thank you to our producers. Patreon account of the year: Jacqueline P, David D, Jimmy and Holly, Vladimir, Jennifer, James, Beast System Revealed, Malik, and of course Jade Bouncerson for the timestamps. Oh, and Christine, producer Christine for the timestamps as well. And to all of our musicians and artists for making this show possible. Remember, so if you want to become a producer of the show, make sure to head over to patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. That's patreon.com/CCNT. Or even better, head on over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
That's right, folks. But if producing the show financially is not in the cards for you, remember, you can always create art for the show, create music, create jingles, whatever your talents are, you can put them to work here at the show, or you can help out with the timestamps as well. For all of those things, you can send those to canarycryradio@gmail.com if you like it easy, or canarycryradio@protonmail.com if you like to keep it secret. If you want to get involved with the Timestamps Project, and we really hope you do, because it's a very important part of the show and will be even more important moving into the future, go ahead and send an email to Jade Bouncerson @gmail.com. It is spelled just how it sounds, Jade Bouncerson @gmail.com. So thank you very much. You can also help out the show by leaving ratings and reviews. That's right. I'll be reading ratings and reviews on Friday. It's always a little hard to explain, but just take our word for it. When you leave a rating and a review, it goes a long, long way to manipulating those algorithms, to sharing the show with people who may not have heard of it before. And Gonz and I read all of them, and makes us feel good. So go ahead, head on over to Apple Podcasts and search for Canary Cry News Talk. Leave a rating and a review. That'll be very nice.
And
you can also...
I'll just real quick on that. I think we have some piled up because I don't think you read it last Friday because we were having connection issues. And the other thing that I'm hearing, and this is just kind of rumor stage at the moment, but Apple Podcasts might go the way of Spotify and shut down their open and free podcasting stuff that they got going on. So that's just rumor stage now, but if that happens, then I
wouldn't put too much stock in that, but it is possible, and it's always been possible. But that means ratings and reviews will be even more important. So go do that. We'll read them on Friday. And also, you can share the show out. Hit the share button. Just post it on your social media. Send it to a friend. Post it in your forums, groups, Reddits, wherever. It all helps, folks. And even better, you got friends and family who are starting to wake up to the fact that the world is not what it seems. And you can go ahead and be a shining light of truth in their lives by sending them an episode. We like to call it rattling cages. And if you need any more instructions, here's what you do. You walk right up to them, you grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
Oh, what happened? Here we go.
No.
Let's try that one more time.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy.
Leave the bird alone.
Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Gons, any last words?
The three frogs, demonic spirits that perform signs and go out to all the kings of the earth to assemble them for battle on the great day of God the Almighty. So yeah, watch out for them frog spirits.
Spirit frogs. Okie dokie, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to tune in on Wednesday. That is Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. We'll be here, and thanks for tuning in this time. And gosh, I've lost it. Thanks for listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You sound really defeated or tired or something. I don't know what's going on, man.
I am a little bit, but it's okay. Thanks for listening to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
A Satanist and melt those babies into candles.
Come on, man. Aborted feces. Boy, it's really a productive segment, man. Keep yapping, man.
Never do it, flip it.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
I want to shake things up, shake things up. I want to shake things up, shake things up.
Leave the bird alone.
I want to stir up some controversy. I want to rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
Fun fact, I believe it was another fun fact. Fun fact. Another fun fact.
Brings me me back to my Screamo days.
In the future, humans will be confined in a people's zoo.
People, I'll keep you safe and warm in my people's zoo. I'll keep you safe and warm now in my people's zoo. You and you in my people's zoo. I'll keep the cameras on.